start off with this broad topic of interest. Why is everyone infatuated with true crime?
Well, I think it's partly because we're infatuated with narrative, and the fundamental narrative is good versus evil. Right? It's human choice in a domain characterized by good versus evil. And so the true crime genre is a variant of that, and it concentrates on, well, both usually, because there's an evil character and then there's the good forces attempting to bring him down. And I think it's indicative of the fundamental structure of human experience, but it's also morally salutary in that to understand evil is also to understand good, at least as its opposite. And I think that evil in some sense is more believable. It's more immediate, it's more visceral, it's more undeniable, it's more short-term. And people often have direct contact with it in one form or another. And it's part of, and to be fascinated by that is to be fascinated by the moral structure of the world. And given that you need an aim in life, that you need a moral goal, that you need a noble moral goal in order to live properly, you have to distinguish between good and evil, and the easiest way to start to do that is to start to understand what constitutes evil. We're also fascinated by true crime stories because we want to identify the predator. You know, I mean, human beings are prey animals as well as predators, and the worst of all predators are human predators by a remarkably substantial margin. We don't have to worry too much about being eaten by wolves, but we do have some reasonable probability of encountering malevolent people. And so we need to understand the nature of the predatory. And so it's the same thing we do when we go to horror movies to inoculate ourselves against our fear of death or disgust. You know, we have to expose ourselves to these realities of the world so that we're not as naive, and we're not the naive sitting ducks that we might otherwise be.
You've worked in prisons.
Briefly.
Briefly. You've been exposed to people who did very bad things.
Yes.
What was that like? What was it like knowing they could harm you?
Well, that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part for me was that they weren't that much different than me. I mean, that's the first thing I learned when I spent some time in a maximum security prison working part-time for a psychologist back in the 1980s. They were a very violent criminal that I met, and they're a very small guy, very unassuming person who had taken two cops out and made them dig their own graves and shot them while they were begging for their lives, making reference to their families by his own testimony. And it was very difficult for me to reconcile this rather unassuming small person with this monster. And at the same time, two other prisoners that I met, they had taken a third down and pulverized his leg with a lead pipe because they thought he was a stool pigeon, and he might have been that, and who knows. But I spent a lot of time meditating on that, trying to understand how it is that anyone could do that. It seemed beyond me. It seemed like something I could not manage, that I could not do. And I actually thought about doing that for weeks after that experience. And what I realized...
About killing somebody?
About both, about killing someone and about the torture. And I eventually realized that I could do it, and that it would be easier than I thought. And that was very, very shocking. I've never forgotten that. And so that part's there in all of us, and it can come out. It's there more in some people than in others. You know, there are people who are prone to violence. Well, I can tell you, here's one thing that's useful to know. If you take 2-year-olds and you put them in a room, there's a small proportion of the 2-year-olds, almost all male, who have a proclivity to kick, hit, bite, and steal, essentially. They're very dominant, aggressive children. And they're almost all male, about 5% of males. And the vast majority of them are socialized by the time they're 4. And so it's possible to socialize even the aggressive males. But there's a small proportion of them who don't become socialized. And then they become alienated from their peer group because no one can be friends with them. And they become habitual criminals. And after 4, it looks like there's very little that can be done to put them back together. Because so much of what happens to you after 4 is dependent on peer socialization. And if you're isolated from your peers, then you don't get socialized.
So just to be clear on this, because I was always curious how much of being a killer is genetic and how much of it is the nurture. if let's just say 1 in 20 males at age 2
Yeah.
is prone to becoming a bad apple,
Yeah.
and most of them get better by 4,
Yeah.
that makes me feel nurture is important.
Yes, definitely. No doubt about it.
But the fact that only 1 in 20 had the predisposition to begin with means there's a genetic element as well.
Yes, definitely. Well, men are definitely more aggressive than women, which is why so many more men are in prison. The personality traits that go along with that are, in all likelihood, high levels of emotional stability, so low neuroticism, very little fear, low levels of agreeableness, so those are people who are harsh and brusque, but who also tend to tell hard truths and to be able to make hard decisions. There's real advantages to that, but then also low conscientiousness. That's a bad triad of traits for criminal behavior. But most of the boys who show violent traits when they're 2, and 2-year-olds, by the way, are the most violent of human beings. If you group kids together by age, the 2-year-olds engage in by far the largest number of violent interactions. But it's a small minority. But most of that can be brought under control.
Is that why we seem to see amongst these serial killers people who are often in respected positions of society, police officers, politicians, that some of those traits seem to overlap?
Well, the serial killers, like the problem with assessing those sorts of people is that they're so statistically rare that it's hard to draw any firm conclusions from it. I mean, I've thought about it's a very tough one. They get hooked on the desire for the novelty of more and more outrageous acts. That's part of it, and that would be the true serial killer type. And there's often a really powerful sexual component that goes along with that. Mm-hmm. So something's gone wrong with their psychosexual development at a very early age, and they become sadistic, and there's a sexual pleasure in that. And sex often involves domination and submission. It's part of the sexual game, and so they represent an extraordinarily extreme variant of that. The mass murderer types, they're usually more generally vengeful and angry about the structure of the world. And those are often the quiet people that you hear about that never caused any trouble, who are actually harboring immense amounts of resentment about the structure of the world, like Cain, and who are brooding in their basements or in their lonely existences for months, fantasizing. And this is that invitation of evil into your life, right? They start to become vengeful. They desire destruction. They start to fantasize about that, and then they start to live in that fantasy. And that fantasy grows and grows and grows and grows, and they entice it, invite it along until it dominates them completely. And then they have a plan, and then they execute the plan, and then it's mayhem everywhere. And what they're aiming at is the mayhem, no doubt about it.
Amongst the serial killers, when we look at their stories, their version of what happened, they seem to often have had big-time problems with their mother, not with their father. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that might be?
Well, it's definitely the case that one of the best...
What the fuck? I just took a picture of myself. It's cool the screen gets all bright just to fucking mimic a flash, I guess. Anyways, what's up? Yeah, okay, I look alright. Oh, such a Taurus. Alright, sorry everybody. So I want to talk about something important today. Actually, everything I talk about is important, so what the fuck am I talking about? Alright. Trees on. Pentagrams on. I got powers on. Wedding ring, because I love my crazy wife, is on. Buddha's with me. Well, this is a dragon, but it's part of something to do with Buddhism, and I'm not going to try to dishonor that tradition by pretending I know a lot about it. I do know a lot about the philosophy of Buddhism, kind of like a nutshell, packaged, crappily version, from what I learned in school doing world religions to what I study. Whenever you look for something, when you're actively looking for something that you want to know, you tend to find the things that reinforce what you already know and what you want to hear. And that's why I say what I'm saying. The version of Buddhism that I know is the version I want to know, you know, so I can easily say every religion's got a piece of the truth, and you put them all together. And it's just not always the case, but, you know, it's something, now that I'm more depolarized, I'd have to look into actively and see all the good and bad of every religion, really. And I welcome everybody to try something like that, to actually look at every religion and just information in general. You know, when you type in a search, whatever you're looking for, and you get a bunch of titles, and you pick the one that you think is going to do the best, and then you start listening to shit, and nope, not this one, and it's probably giving you information you don't like, and nope, not this one, and all of a sudden someone has your same mindset and opinion, and you keep it on. So that's kind of what I mean. But anyway, it's not what I want to talk about. What you just heard was the man, Peterson, my fellow Canadian, love that guy, talking to Dr. Oz. And I've played this before, and I've said this before, that this is crucial for every parent to know. If your kid, before the age of 4, doesn't get rough and tumble play enough, then they won't develop certain brain circuitry to be able to socialize with other children, right? And then they won't have friends, and it's going to fuck them up for years to come, okay? I've made that point very clear. Now, I watched that this morning after making the video last night about, well, 2 videos last night about the whole drug addict and the neural pathways not being created whenever your parents are either neglecting you or not even on purpose. Maybe they're working to survive because they got bills to pay and they just weren't there enough. But it wasn't their fault. They were trying to do right by you. But the baby knows that something's wrong, you know, and it could be just society in general is wrong. But I digress. But the point I was trying to get at was, you know, don't neglect your kids. Well, and then a long time ago, I made episodes about what Peterson says. Your kid has to be socialized by the age of 4. If not, they're going to have a hard time at it. So your kid has to have a little bit of rough and tumble play. Because, once again, what you do, think about it this way. If your father or mother are not there, or you have them, and they never wrestle with you, play fight with you, or whatever, and they just say, fighting's bad, no fighting, not even a little bit of wrestling, okay? You get to school, people are fighting, you don't get involved, you don't get involved. But, you know, something's like, oh, it looks kind of like fun, but I'm not allowed to do it, it's bad. And then the first time you do it, maybe you're really good at it, maybe you get your ass whooped, maybe everybody makes fun of you. It doesn't matter. Either one of those scenarios is going to end up by you slowly fighting, punching people, choking people over and over again until you become either a really violent person and it's fun to do and hurt people and hit because you never got to express it earlier. You never got to do a little bit of a loud, normal, little bit of wrestling and fighting and play fighting. Kids are testing their limits. How far can I push this thing I have that called the body before it starts to hurt, you know? And so they'll poke their dad or their mom, or they'll push their siblings or whatever. They'll punch, and this bigger sibling will just wait, and then crack them, you know? And then the kid stops. If you don't experience that, if the kids aren't experiencing that, then they're gonna have a hard time of it. In addition to that, there's a social aspect. There's a reason why kids start school at age 4. Now that I think of it, if what he's saying is true, we should almost start them at 3. But anyways, point I'm trying to get at is, if you take what he just said, and I'll play a small clip of it just so you know exactly what part I'm talking about. But if kids don't get socialized, most violent kids, all violent kids, the most violent group of kids is 2-year-olds, according to him, according to the studies he's seen. And most of those are men. Not all, but most. And they'll steal, the punch, they'll kick, that's where the thoughts go. They want to do the hitting stuff. And that's why from 2 to 4, you gotta manage that, okay? Hit me, whatever, hit me. Give them a little crack back. Oh, they stop, you know, they know the limits. And then they start realizing, oh, if I hit, they hit back. That's a good thing in my mind, but I won't go there. I'm not saying to hit your kids or anything like that. I'm just giving you hypothetical scenarios. But if you put social distancing into the scope of things, here's another reason why staying at home and homeschooling your kids, and I'm not saying those things are bad. I'm telling you right now, I'm actually thinking about homeschooling my kids, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing research like this, to see the pros and cons. And I want an excuse to stay home and homeschool my kid. I really do. So looking at this differing information that goes against what I want to do is really hard, but I'm doing it because that's what well-balanced people do. They don't just pick the side that they think makes most sense and run with it and just defend it like they're supposed to defend it, like their existence depends on defending that. And that's just stupidity. That's just ideology. That's just ignorance. But as much as I want to stay home with my kid, I don't want my daughter to be not socialized properly and end up becoming a violent offender. And if you listen to what Jordan Peterson says in this little clip that I'm going to show again, this is information you should look up yourself. Not take my word, not take Jordan's word for it, none of that. And you can say, well, how is me staying at home with my kid going to turn him into a violent offender? Well, if they don't get to interact with other children, play, get rough, get into fist fights, make friends, what happens when you send a 10-year-old back to school because you have to work? Maybe one parent dies, the other parent can't keep doing it, whatever the case is, and they've never been around other kids. Well, he's going to be a weird little fucker, and no one's going to want to be hang out with them. So because you want to protect your child and you want to stay home with your child, and that's honorable and that's beautiful, and that's a wonderful thing, that there's so many parents that care about their kids so much that they don't want them to get hurt. Like, that's beautiful. I understand that. And this is where the eatable mother who loves her kids so much she eats them, which basically means you love your kids so much that you're going to hurt them by homeschooling them when you don't know what the fuck you're doing, or you don't know the psychological effects it's going to have on them. So before you start looking at curriculums and things like that, just a thought, maybe start looking at books about your children's psychology and why interacting with students, let alone the curriculum and the teachers and all the bullshit that goes along with it, because I know there's fucking huge holes in our system. But the fact that most people come out sociable, and yeah, we're seeing more and more people that are having issues in these new designer fucking diseases, ADD, ADHD, and shit like that. But that's not because of our system. If anything, when most people went to school, like my parents' age, and probably, you know, anybody who's in their 30s to 50s, their parents, when they all went to school, yeah, they dropped out early and they worked the rest of their life, but there was less diseases then when all those people were going to school versus now when people can drop out and do what they want, go on disability, people are hitting their kids, teach them right from wrong, blah, 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 blah. So just do your research on it. Make sure you fucking really look at the child's psychology and what a child needs from what we know right now, and go with the most information. Don't find a book with someone with your opinion who may be a Christian or maybe an anti-Christian, and because you share their opinion on some things, that you take everything they say as gold. Put aside all your preconceived judgments, put aside your belief systems, put aside all your bullshit, and be a blank fucking slate, because it's about your child's welfare, okay? And I don't have the right way for you. I don't know the right way, and that's why I'm doing my research on it. And I just found it fascinating that what he says here, and I've heard this many times before, and I never put it together like this. So for another reason why social distancing is a bad thing, and I'm not saying it's not something we don't need to do, because if there is a COVID-19 out there and people are getting sick and dying, then yeah, we definitely need to stop seeing each other for a small brief time so that we can start seeing each other again. I agree with that 100%. But the problem is it's lasted so long. My kids have been home since fucking March, and they're slowly going crazy, and I don't want that for my children. So I don't care how scared you are of the fucking world, but your kids should be going to school, in my opinion. They should be around other children. And the other children, as they learn, your child learns, and they mold together. Being around adults, listening to adults 24/7, watching TV more than ever, playing video games, they're only supposed to have an hour of that a day. And they're having more time on there than they are creative time. Like I said, I have to fight with my kids to do an hour of creativity a day. But I do that fight because that is a battle worth fighting. And then I see my kids are opposite, but ask yourself, you can say, holy fuck, their kids only do creativity an hour a day. My kid the other day was drawing for 10 hours. That's awesome. Great. But does it do it every day? No. And you can diss me all you want, but at least I'm making my kids do that creativity every fucking day because I know it's good for them. And they hate me when I make them do it most of the time because they lack so much creativity, they can't even get creative about what they want to create. And it's like, do anything. Go outside and kick a soccer ball around and see how many times you can hold it up in the air. I used to do that, and I became the best hacky sacker at my fucking school. And I am still proud of that to this day. And I can kick a soccer ball. You know, it takes me a while, but I can get from 75 to 100 and keep it up in the air like that. And I'm damn proud of that. That's great foot-eye coordination, just like hand-eye coordination, you know what I mean? That's helpful for driving. And you say, well, why is your foot? Well, because you got to hit the gas and brake with your foot, do you not? So it's useful, no matter how you look at it. So anyways, that could be creativity. See how many times you can hit a ball up in the air using a hockey stick to hit a tennis ball up in the air, you know? Hand-eye coordination once again, get your feet involved. You know, things like that. They develop motor skills. Motor skills are good for everything. If there's one thing you should do, is develop your fucking motor skills, your hand-eye, your hand-foot, your eye-body coordination, whatever it is. But anyways, the point I'm trying to get at is let your kids be social. Let your kids socialize. If you have your kid and they want to go hang out with another kid and that parent is on board, then be on board. Let them get a little bit of germs in them. Let it bring it home. Let you be able to be around those germs without getting sick. You know, even if it breaks down your body for a little bit, your body is stronger than you fucking know. Your body can handle anything. The only thing your body can't handle is what you allow it to fuck it up. So if you allow cancer to fuck it up, if you allow flu and COVID to fuck it up, then it will get fucked up. It will. So stop allowing shit to fuck it up. Let your body do what it needs to do. Stop pretending you know what's best for everybody. Get off your high fucking horse and do some research. Negate some of the responsibility that you think you need to hold and do consciously. And it's honorable. And, you know, you're a good person for doing it. Absolutely. But you might be doing more harm than good. Don't be the mother that kills their child because they're overprotecting it. Don't be the mother that keeps the kid in the bubble from age 0 to 10. And then when they have to get out of the bubble, because eventually they have to get out of the bubble, you can't protect them all their life. So when that kid gets out of the bubble, guess what happens? The first little fucking germ that, you know, my kids that are outside eating dirt all the time, fuck, that germ doesn't even have a chance of doing anything to it. It won't even bother going in my kid because it's so scared of my kid, because it'll just destroy it. Its immune system is so fucking strong. Well, that germ's going to go to your kid because your kid hasn't built up any antibodies against it. And more than that, your kid is also now weak and doesn't have an immune system and it doesn't have any friends to even deal with that. So it's at home watching TV, being homeschooled by mommy, and it's getting sick every fucking week. Don't do that to your kid. And don't take my word for shit. Do your research. I'm not an expert, but this is what I've been doing, and my kids haven't gotten sick yet. They're stronger than ever. They, as much as they hate being at home, I let them go and do whatever they want. I'm in contact with the parents. I make sure I know where they're going to be. I make sure they're not around other people. I make sure they have a mask if they do have to go anywhere. You know, I try to cover every angle I possibly can. But at the end of the day, all you can do is protect your kids. All you can do is teach your kids, and they have to make the decisions for themselves. Anyways, this has been Corey LeBlanc. This has been my public service announcement about why social distancing for too long is going to fuck things up for our children, which means if our children's are fucked up, our future is fucked up. So when you get reincarnated and you become your kid's kid, and they're fucked right up, and you're like, wow, how did I raise such a fucking retard? It's like, well, it's the retard that raised them that made the new retard. And I don't mean retard because that's a bad word, and I don't believe in that. I got nothing but love for especially and handicapped people, and I have fought a lot for them and used to get mad when people made fun of them at my school, to the point where I've gotten suspended for knocking a motherfucker out, for teasing them and doing things to piss them off. So when I say that, I don't mean that in any disrespect to anybody who's mentally challenged. I just mean a person who's supposed to be normal who acts like they're mentally ill. Anyways, have a good fucking day.
Eventually realized that I could do it and that it would be easier than I thought. And that was very, very shocking. I've never forgotten that. And so that part's there in all of us, and it can come out. It's there more in some people than in others. There are people who are prone to violence. Well, I can tell you, here's one thing that's useful to know. If you take 2-year-olds and you put them in a room, there's a small proportion of the 2-year-olds, almost all male, who have a proclivity to kick, hit, bite, and steal, essentially. They're very dominant, aggressive children. And they're almost all male, about 5% of males. And the vast majority of them are socialized by the time they're 4. And so it's possible to socialize even the aggressive males. But there's a small proportion of them who don't become socialized. And then they become alienated from their peer group because no one can be friends with them. And they become habitual criminals. And after 4, it looks like there's very little that can be done to put them back together. Because so much of what happens to you after 4 is dependent on peer socialization. And if you're isolated from your peers, then you don't get socialized.
So just to be clear on this, because I was always curious how much of being a killer is genetic and how much of it is the nurture. If, let's just say, 1 in 20 males at age 2 is prone to becoming a bad apple, and most of them get better by 4, that makes me feel nurture is important.
Yes, definitely. No doubt about it.
But the fact that only 1 in 20 had the predisposition to begin with means there's a genetic element as well.
Yes, definitely. Well, men are definitely more aggressive than women, which is why so many more men are in prison. The personality traits that go along with that are, in all likelihood, high levels of emotional stability, so low neuroticism, very little fear, low levels of agreeableness, so those are people who are harsh and brusque, but who also tend to tell hard truths and to be able to make hard decisions. There's real advantages to that, but then also low conscientiousness. That's a bad triad of traits for criminal behavior. But most of the boys who show violent traits when they're 2, and 2-year-olds, by the way, are the most violent of human beings. If you group kids together by age, the 2-year-olds engage in by far the largest number of violent interactions. But it's a small minority. But most of that can be brought under control. Is
that why we seem to see amongst these serial killers people who are often in respected positions of society, police officers, politicians, that some of those traits seem to overlap?
Well, the serial killers, like the problem with assessing those sorts of people is that they're so statistically rare that it's hard to draw any firm conclusions from it. I mean, I've thought about the
All right. It's truly amazing that when you write something down, how easy it is to remember it. And it could be just me, it could be just the way my memory works. Like I said before, I got some type of photogenic memory. It's not like the one they talk about in the movies, but it's similar, because I want to talk about something right now, and it's like, fuck, forgot it again. And like normal, like eventually it'll come to me if I forget it, right? But because I wrote it down in my kitchen about an hour ago, I can go, remember, and it's like right now, it's almost like being in real time. Right now, I can go in my kitchen in my mind, which is where I am right now, and I'm looking at the paper beside the microwave, and I can see what's going on, everybody. And we could debate. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what the fuck is up? It is the Ceremonial Witch, who had 35 subscribers, but just lost one. Must be all this curse shit I'm talking about. Someone probably didn't like it. It's all good. I get it. I totally get it. When I was starting my path, if any of the people I was listening to or watching talked about cursing people or stuff that I considered to be baneful, actually for a while I thought black magic was actually a bad thing. So yeah, for a while if people were talking about that stuff, I wouldn't watch them anymore, and I never unsubscribed. Well, I probably did, actually. I probably have. So, it is what it is. Like I said before, I've even subscribed to people that
I've even subscribed to, there's this one Christian dude who said he was doing a lot of etymology shit. And his etymology shit, like the research he did up on the word and how he put stuff together, you know, he was trying to force feed it to you in a way, like telling you this is how it is at times. But for the most part, his research was good. You know, you just had to not take on his point of view at the same time. So, but I even subscribed to him. But then he literally said in the one video, but for all you witches out there that are coming for me, I will send an angel of death at you, or the angel of fucking, I don't know, something to that effect, angel of death to take my fucking soul. Best believe that. I will protect mine, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, man, I was just loving this guy. But because of the fact that he did all that good research, I still subscribe to him. Even though I'm not a big fan of anybody saying they want to kill witches. And I mean, he wasn't a Christian per se. I think he was more some kind of Jewish and or Adventist or whatever, the ones that believe the Sabbath is Saturday, believe in the Old Testament more than the New Testament, but still kind of believe in Jesus because he was talking about Jesus. Anyways, it doesn't really matter. The point is, if people feel they need to unsubscribe from me, that's fine. I don't mind. It's not a big deal. It's not about subscribers. It's not about views. It's about, well, the beginning when I did my first podcast, I said I just want to be a voice out there for other people to know that magic is real. And on top of that, I feel there is I need to present things in a certain way. What I mean by that is simply, I need to make it very clear that magic isn't just using your mind, subconscious, this new age, new way of thinking, okay, isn't just for good. And I'm not saying it's to be used for evil. I'm saying it can and will be used for evil. And if you aren't aware of it, or know it, or actively guard or put anything up to protect yourself while you're changing your programming, then you can cause harm to other people without even knowing it. And if you believe in karma, well, then your own beliefs will cause you karma. Because I don't think, now I don't know, and I can't tell you for sure, but I don't think it's as simple as, you know, everything goes around, comes around. So there's this law of karma that states that if you do something bad's going to happen to you. That doesn't make sense to me. And, you know, I watched a video from Thunder Wizard, and it was very good. I forget which one it was, but he was explaining just that the law of karma can't be a thing. Like, there is a law of karma to a certain degree, in the sense that if you send out bad, you'll get bad. If you send out good, you'll get good. I believe in that because I've used it. I've done it. I've given money and I've received money. I've given people that I've hated, my enemies, I wished them prosperity and I've forgiven them. And then because of it, I've gotten good stuff in return, and I've done good, I've done well, I've reaped the rewards after doing said things. So I know there is this circuitry that what goes around comes around. But I think if you have the belief within you, because we create a reality, that I believe. We create what happens to us, that I believe, that I know. But if you've created a belief and reinforced it over and over again and said it was real over and over again and lived it and listened to people saying it's real over and over and over again, then you've created your own circumstance where this karma is real. Now, this is going to be a little complicated to understand, but maybe try to wrap your head around it with me, okay? What I'm saying here is that we can create whatever we want. And belief systems and the way life works is the same. It follows those same laws. Meaning, you can create this rule that if you do bad things by your own judgment, you dictate what's good and what's bad. You have this moral compass within you. And anytime you pass that bad line, whenever you cross over that bad line, then something bad has to happen to you. And you've created that circumstance. So your mind is going to create bad circumstances to happen to you every time you do something bad. This way, you stop doing bad things. You've created that own circumstance within your mind. You have that belief system. Because if you think about good and bad, now there are things that are baneful. You know, if you're just going around killing children for no fucking reason, well, that's just to be bad. That's just, you know what I mean? It's hard to explain. All right, so I don't know where I left off, where I was going with that shit, but I'm just gonna keep trying to explain it. This nice little hatchet I got today. It's fucking sick, yo. Anyways, so where was I going with that? Okay, I'm trying to explain karma as the law of karma isn't more important than the law that you create your own reality. But the law that everything that you create, anything you put out, anything you do, anything you say, whether it's energetically or in the physical, or because I think you can think thoughts. I think Ralph Smart said if you're thinking about negative thoughts, thinking about all the ways the day can go wrong, then you're going to cause that to happen, and that's inaccurate. And I don't say that often. I don't ever like to say Ralph Smart's inaccurate, and maybe from his point of view it's accurate. Maybe he truly thinks that if you simply just think a bad thought, then that's going to manifest. But that's not accurate in as far as I know. Fuck, I don't know what's happened there. I was trying to find my lighter. As far as I can tell, that's not accurate. You can have negative thoughts and not act on them. Can you have negative thoughts and put emotion to it and they don't manifest? Well, that's when it starts getting more complicated. And then if you add action into that, if you put forth action such as ritual, such as assidual, such as going out there and going to the guy who's trying to get your wife to sleep with him's house and try to get him to fight you, and he won't come out, and you start screaming and fucking putting all that hate emotion into these words and thoughts and all that you have, then yeah, you're gonna create a thought form that's gonna fucking make him not want to leave his house and be scared to go out every time because he thinks you're gonna run into him. He's gonna think that you decide to hide down the road, and really it's gonna be a thought form that you created and he created, because at the same time as you're creating a thought form that you're gonna kill this motherfucker the next time he steps out of his house, he created a thought form with using the fear emotion into the thoughts that you are not gonna give this up, that you are not gonna stop until he is dead or fights you. So therefore, yeah, that's how these negative emotions, the negative thoughts can fuck with you. But if you simply just have a negative thought, because I said a long time ago, there's an old stoic practice that you do, and it's a negative meditation. Whereas the point of the meditation is to, when you wake up, you think of all the fucking ways your day can go shitty. And then from there, you think of all the resolutions that can happen. So it's not just thinking of negative thoughts and then just hoping they don't happen. You're thinking of negative thoughts and then you're giving it resolutions. And this way, if these things manifest throughout your day or happen, then you already have the resolutions and you don't have to worry about it. And that's a Stoic thing, and coming from Marcus Aurelius, or I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so my bad. But a few of Ralph's videos, he actually quotes Marcus, the Emperor of Rome. But the point is, you can have a negative thought and not act on it. But that's the point of banish, reject, deny. If you get negative thoughts happening often to you, what you need to do is, I reject that thought. And you can leave it at that, or you can do the extra step that I do is, and I accept that the opposite is going to play out. Now don't say that, but state the opposite happening. So I reject the thought that Corey LeBlanc is going to kick my ass, and I accept that I'm never going to talk to his wife again, so he'll get over it and he won't kick my ass. I will be harm-free, so what it be. Obviously don't use the won'ts in any negative speech, because subconscious mind doesn't understand that. But at that level, you're just basically, well, anyways, I won't get into that. Point is, negative thoughts by themselves can't manifest. If you add the energy and motion, the emotion into it, then they have a better chance. And that's, to me, how you start and accidentally maybe create thought forms. But you also need some kind of action in there as well, meaning you visualize yourself going there, kicking his ass, you do a ritual, something to that. Anyway, so that's not the diss Ralph, because I love Ralph. Ralph's awesome. I watch his newest episode every single day when they come out. Now, when all this happened last week, exactly a week from today, I was not watching anything on YouTube, not doing anything, just kind of soaking and
cursing that motherfucker. And when I say cursing, I mean in my mind, mentally cursing him. See, if whoever dropped me as a subscriber dropped me because they think I'm physically cursing him, well, no. See, there's a difference between cursing someone. See, to me, hexing somebody is the act of doing it on purpose. Now, if you really look up the word hex, hex is just the hexagram. It comes from Saturn. It's the reason the Jews wear the black cube on their head. Black is for Saturn. Hexagram is for the fucking cube that's got the two, you know, a cube has two squares on top. Was not watching anything on YouTube, not doing any cursing him. See, cursing someone. See, to me, hexing somebody is the act of doing it on purpose. Now, if you really look up the word hex, well, anyways, I won't get into that. Point is, negative thoughts by themselves can't manifest. Was not watching anything on YouTube, not doing anything, just kind of soaking and cursing that motherfucker. And when I say cursing, I mean in my mind, mentally cursing him. See, if whoever dropped me as a subscriber dropped me because they think I'm physically cursing him, well, no. See, there's a difference between cursing someone. See, to me, hexing somebody is the act of doing it on purpose. Now, if you really look up the word hex, hex is just the hexagram. It comes from Saturn. It's the reason the Jews wear the black cube on their head. Black is for Saturn. Hexagram is for the fucking cube that's got the two, you know, a cube has two squares on top and four on the side. That's all it is. So the hexagram comes from Saturn, and that slowly, just like how hoodoo was a practice, and you used to make a hoodoo doll, it would be yourself, and you would put it on your altar, and you would make this doll get thinner, maybe you would make it get richer, you would make it get stronger, you make it better looking, whatever the case is. You would do that for yourself. That was sympathetic magic, and whatever you did to that doll happened to you. That's a hoodoo practice, as far as I can remember, and it might even be something else, but I think it's hoodoo. Anyways, well then Hollywood takes that and perverts it and turns it into voodoo, and voodoo is cursing your enemy. So same concept, which you can do either way it works. If it works the one way, it works the other way. That's how this shit works. Meaning, if you can cause something to happen to you, right, it's easier to affect yourself, no question. So cursing other people is hard. Cursing yourself is easy. We curse ourselves all the time. And that brings me back to what I was talking about, karma. The law of karma is the law of karma, because if you say, oh, I think my bitch is dying. Anyways, if you say you're never going to be rich, you're never going to lose weight, you're always going to be fat, you're always going to be lonely, you're never going to quit doing dope, well then you are putting into manifestation what you're saying. You know what I mean? And you can say it's law of karma. But that's what I mean by cursing. I never cursed him per se. I wanted to hex him. I wanted to send him some shit. And then I didn't even do that much. I ended up fucking making a fucking thought form to fucking fuck with him. And that thought form is to fuck him until he learns his lesson. Once he learns his lesson, this is not the thought form's job. The thought form has to return to me. So I was worried that because it's a thought form with a negative intent or a maleficent intent, that it might return to me and affect me maleficently. I don't think that's how it works, because I think the thought form is completely different, and I decide when. So if I start noticing, oh shit, my thought form's here, it's fucking with me, I can have the kill code, I can kill any time. I create the programming for a thought form, so I can do whatever I want with this thought form. But I also had it, the thought form's job is to all the cursing energy I sent him, not intentionally, just because I was upset and putting a lot of emotion, a lot of visualization, and all that into how much I hated this fucker for trying to hit on my fucking wife when he knew she was married. And then I was even mad at him for simply, you know, telling her he'd be with her, yet he only wanted to sleep with her and that he wanted to be with her. Because like I said, I was willing to let my wife go, you know? I was willing to set her free, and if this is something you gotta pursue, go pursue it, and then I'll be waiting for you when you're done and you come back. That's how sure I was that this guy was just fucking trying to fuck her and never talk to her ever again. And you know, his action basically proved that. So I was also upset about that. So I put a lot of emotion and
bad thoughts out there sent to him. And this is what I know the law is. This is the law. And now, how do you state this law? I don't know. Some people call it the law of attraction. What you send out comes back to you. So if you send out good thoughts, it'll come back to you. If you send out the thought that you're rich, it'll come back to you. That's what people say the law of attraction is. So this is the law. This is the law of magic, if you will. This is what I'm trying to teach. This is what Dolores Cannon said is the one lesson we need to learn. It's what, if you want to learn how to create your reality, this is the concept you need to understand. Now, the 7 Hermetic principles are how you do that successfully. They're the 7 guidelines you need to do to make sure you manifest what you need. Well, basically, if you take a thought of you becoming wealthy, and then you put the emotion of how it would feel to be wealthy, if you get that combination correct, and then you use ritual, assidual, candle magic, whatever, make a thought form, whatever one of those actions. So you got the fucking air, the fire, and the water, and it will manifest into the earthly plane. That is magic in a fucking nutshell. It's also the combination that people don't realize they're doing, because I know what I'm doing. I know what people are doing, yet when that day happened, I could not control myself. I was so upset, so hurt, so brokenhearted that I just flew all that shit out there. It just went. I couldn't help it. So, being a responsible person, I didn't care if it fucked him up. I wanted to fuck him up. But I don't want it to come back to me and infect anybody in my house. So my secondary job of my thought form is before that comes back, you fuck him up, you scare him, you do whatever it needs to be done to make sure he never does this to another man's wife. Once you accomplish that, you stick around until my cursing energy, I think I wrote hexing energy as well, but you stick around until that's ready to come back. You transform that into, thank you, Mr. Owie. You send it, you take it, sorry, I just got a thing from Google, ceremonial. Let's see what this says. Can I get on there? Ceremonial witchcraft. Oh shit! But it's for my wife actually. Anyways, it's for a website that we were making for our little knickknacks and shit. We're gonna make our fucking Sandy and Corey's kick-ass crafts or something to that effect. But I'm gonna make pentagrams and altars and altar tools and all that shit. It's gonna be live shortly. There, I just got the confirmation from Google, so the mail's working fast again. But anyways, fuck. So all that shit I shot at him, when that's ready to come back to me, I think I wrote cursing and hexing energy back, but hexing would be the wrong word. To me, that's the difference. When you curse somebody, it's because you're cursing them. It's using curse words. It's talking ill about somebody with emotion into it, and potentially enough passion or desire to actually let that manifest. E.A. Coetting puts it pretty good when he talks about cursing. He says, people were asking him how come their curses haven't manifested. And he says, for all magic, if the thing you're trying to manifest, if it's, and we could debate if desire is the right word, but passion, desire, action, fire, that's all Mars energy. That's the second thing you need, right? You need your thoughts, air, you need the passion, the desire, the action, fire, you need that from Mars. But Mars is also a baneful fucking planet too, so watch out. So if you think magic can't be done banefully, or you can't curse people, you can't do shit like that, you're wrong, because Mars is one of the ingredients. Fire is one of the ingredients, and fire sometimes can't be controlled. But anyway, so E.A. Coetting says, if you have the desire, if you truly want, if you start magic and you see a bunch of spells and shit, that, okay, that would be cool. So that's what I'm going to try out, just to see if the shit's real first or not. You don't really care. You're not really thinking about it. So, you know, you'll spend an hour or two a day looking up some stuff, maybe an hour doing your ritual or your little spell work. And for the rest of the day, you're hanging out with your family, you're reading, you're doing shit with your wife, you're not thinking about whatever, which is a good way. But if you don't truly have the desire for this to happen, it won't manifest. And you can say, well, you're supposed to set it and forget it. You're supposed to throw it and let it go. Throw it and let it go. And that's true. But the point is, when you throw it, if you don't have enough emotion, sorry, emotion is the wrong word. The emotion would be how you feel when you receive the thing. But if you don't actually, how do you put that? This is the main, so emotion is what most people think is missing from their thing. They think they have to really act as if it's there and be grateful, and that's true. But passion and emotion are two different things. Desire and emotion are two different things. Fire, lust and sex, lust and love are two different things, although they mimic the same thing. That's kind of how this passion and emotion can be. So you have to actually want the thing so bad, or actually need this thing to happen. And if you don't really need this to happen in your life, well then how would you get something to happen? Well then you need to be so fucking tired in your ritual because you were so flamboyant. You told the gods how fucking grateful you were, that you fucking cursed this motherfucker so fucking bad, and you put everything into there. You're vivid, your visualizations are turned right up, everything is so clear, and your hatred is so pronounced for this motherfucker that it's like, holy fuck, yeah, no, this is something that needs to happen for him. Okay, let him have it. You know, that's kind of what you need for all magic, not just what I'm talking about cursing. So if you need money, okay, you need the emotion. You need to be thankful, grateful, so happy. And you need to show that emotion with tears, with happy, with smiles, with jumping up and down in joy. But it's also, the other thing that's missing from that is the need, the emotion you feel is like what happens after you get it. But the moment you feel something, or the moment something happens, it's kind of like the dopamine release whenever you're steady going for something, when you're trying to make something happen in your life, a goal that you're going for. When you start seeing that being achieved, you're going to feel those emotions. That's the dopamine release. But the action you're putting towards that makes you feel a type of way, and it's not quite an emotion. I'm having trouble explaining this. Now, I know a great video where Frederick Xavier explains this so perfectly, and it's I can't remember which one, but if I think of it, I'll put it after this, and I'll let him explain it to you a little bit better, a little small clip from it. But if you don't have that desire for this thing to happen, if you can't show the gods that this thing is one of the most important things to you, it's all you think about during your ritual, and you're putting all your thoughts into that, because if you're doing your ritual and you're kind of half thinking about someone, thinking about you in the next room, hearing something, whatever, then yeah, you don't have enough desire there. You're not using that male Mars energy in the right way to impress the female mind. That's the earth. You gotta think about it that way. If you want something to manifest into the earthly realm, you gotta use the mental, your thoughts, added with your fire, your desire, and your emotions, and that combination will bring it into the earthly plane. So, but what's up, my honey?
I'm going to get a toy.
Okay, where is she, in the pool? Okay, I'll come watch her anyways. All right. So, but the point of all this is to say is that is a combination that creates a reality. That is how all this shit works for any kind of manifestation, any kind of anything. So when you're a kid and you're at Bible school, a regular school, and you're learning shit, and they're inputting all this Bible, Satan is real and God is real, and the commandments are what you got to go by, and if you do bad things happen to you, and ultimately if you don't ask for forgiveness you go to hell. Well, if that gets put in your head hard enough, it's not, those beliefs that are put in your head aren't what karma or the law of karma is, or why you receive those bad things after you do those bad things. Just because someone told you that bad things happen after you do bad things that's not why those bad things will happen to you. The reason those things will happen to you is because your mind can create anything. Therefore, what your mind did is your mind created a software. Let's go with that route, okay? Your mind's the operating system. It created an app, some software that says, okay, when I do good, I'll get more good things. When I do bad, I'll get more bad things. And now you are fucked. Once that got reinforced and it's in you, you are fucked. And that's one of the hardest things to get rid of. And this is why the depolarization training is the best, because honestly, did I get rid of that fucking programming? Probably not. I've tried. Probably not. But the way to sidestep it is to be depolarized. Because when you're depolarized, what's good and what's bad is no longer the guidelines. So all this depends on your inner compass. So you created an app and software that says when you do good, you get good things. When you do bad, you get bad things. But it's based on your inner compass that
It's based on your inner compass for the good and the bad things to manifest. If those good and bad things do not manifest, those good and bad things won't manifest. How am I going to put that? For you to do something good, it has to be according to your moral compass. So if the line is, okay, doing bad things, I'm allowed to think about another man's wife, but I can't cheat on my wife. So if I think about another man's wife when I'm fucking my wife, not so bad. No karma. But if I fuck that man's wife, that's bad. I get karma. Now let's take the other man. If in his mind, let's say his wife says, no, thinking about another girl is just as bad. And, she says that 21 days in a row, and that gets in his head. He thinks about another man's wife when he's fucking her. All of a sudden, he's going to have bad things happen to him. And it's not because, and these are two men within the same block, maybe they live beside each other, went to the same school, went to the same thing. But they both have different karmic rules. Why? Because that's how it's been put in your head. And it's the one thing about the spiritual community that I don't like. Once I realized that you can have any belief you want, and if you strictly take the karma law out of your mind, then you no longer have it. However, it's a hard thing because it's one of the things that is reinforced almost on every spiritual platform, community, wherever. And that tells me that they want us to follow that rule still. That people don't mind us doing magic as long as we think bad things will happen to us if we do bad things. Therefore, it'll keep us away from doing bad things like taking down the government and taking down the monetary system and all this shit. Because we're going to think that's bad ultimately. People are going to think it's bad. And that's why they want people polarized against us. So there's always that good and evil polarity. So there's always good and evil. But if everybody was depolarized a little bit, not completely, then we wouldn't have such an evil polarity, good and evil scheme. Because those two guys have both two different, very similar good and evil concepts and thoughts. And what the moral compass is very similar, except one's line for the bad is just thinking about sleeping, thinking thoughts of like picturing the other man's wife, fucking her while you're actually fucking your wife. To him, that one man, that is evil. To the other man, that's okay as long as you don't actually cheat. That's not cheating yet. And who's the judge? Well, we're all our own judge. We are all our own moral compass. Therefore, if we all have the same moral compass, well then we could talk, but we don't all have the same moral compass. Some people think what I do is evil. Some people think what I do is not even evil enough yet. Some people think I'm doing a Christian religion shit, and people in the Christian religion think I'm doing satanic worship. And once again, who's right, who's wrong? Everybody's fucking wrong if you ask me. It's your moral compass. Don't allow your moral compass to fuck over your manifestation. Because that's one thing I don't know if anybody talks about it, but I truly believe that if you're doing all these good acts to try to get good to happen, right? You're giving people money, you're treating people nice, whatever. Well, if you start doing these little things that in your mind, they're fucking bad, then it's going to fuck up your moral compass. It's going to fuck up you manifesting things, because it's going to fucking go against, all these good deeds you did, but then you did 3 other bad good deeds. So you did 3 good, you did 3 bad. Well, it's just going to even itself out, and you'll be like, why hasn't it manifested yet? And it's simply that. You have the ability to create whatever the fuck you want. And that includes the reinforced limiting belief that karma is a law. Now, what goes out comes back to you. That is a law. But it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. And it doesn't speculate that if you put out something good, something good's gonna come. You can put out something good and get something bad come back to you. You can put out something bad and get something good to you. That's what I just did. I put out bad energy to this motherfucker, and I made something to transform it into good energy. And when my guy comes back to affect me or do whatever, I kill him off. And that's how I beat the law of karma. And I think everybody should try to beat the law of karma. So that's all I wanted to talk about today, was how karma is a self-imposed limiting fucking belief. And if you don't believe me, that's okay. You don't have to agree with me. Do your own research. But I'm telling you, you get deeper in the curriculum and you start seeing more and more how magic works. And this law of karma, like even Frater Xavier says it, the Western way of law of karma is what goes around comes around. He's like, and that's a very fucking cookie cutter approach, or fucking, kids version of karma. It's way more complicated than that, and it's more like a circuit. Energy is just energy. You can send out bad energy and get good energy back. You can send out good energy, get bad energy back.
that good or bad is all on the person sending it. And if I send somebody, let's say bad energy, but that person's Birch and he's got a transformation sigil, well, he's just simply going to say thank you, and I just gave him money. It doesn't matter. That's why I said if anybody's hating on me, it doesn't matter. I have a transformation sigil just to change that energy into whatever the fuck I want. It doesn't matter. So there goes law of karma. The only law of there is this law of magic. This what people think the law of attraction is. What you send out comes back to you, and that's true. But you got to think about it in every part of your fucking life. And you got to use the 7 hermetic principles for it to work. All is mental. That's basically what we're talking about. All starts in the mind. All happens in the mind of God, but all starts in your mind. Something that you are benefiting from. My car, for example, started in someone else's mind. Up, which was stupid, but because every time I tried to meditate, I would fall asleep, or I get bored and go do something else. And then after the middle pillar, I would thank whatever day of the week God it was, and then I would let the candle burn out and I'd walk the fuck out. So I was like, what the hell? So then the more and more I heard about circles and demons and all these other things, and this is when I was still scared of spirits. And this is what happens when you try to do magic on your own. You have to do a lot of wrong things to get the right things, and depending on how wrong you do it, you could suffer maybe a little bit of consequences. And I think, I think in some ways I did. I don't think I was ever attacked by any demons or anything like that, but I started doing, I learned how, before I did my circle right, okay? Before I did my circle right, and thank God I found that one book. So I didn't want to paint something on the ground in my garage. This is my first temple. I didn't want to paint something on the ground in my garage because of my wife and whatever. At this time, I wasn't really telling her what I was into. I told her that was my secret area, that I wanted to go to meditate, that I wanted to be alone, clear my mind. It's too hard to meditate in the house with the kids, baby, and all that. She got that. So I was going to paint some symbol that could be misconstrued as demonic, devil, whatever, I was trying to avoid all that, and I didn't want people to know I was doing magic per se. So I go ahead and I do that. Oh, shit. So, anyways, I started doing the lesser banishing, and the lesser banishing lights up the astral plane, all right? Now, it protects you from lower level entities that could do you harm, but it nonetheless lights up the astral fucking plane. So, I heard all that, and then I still wasn't sure on how to do a circle yet at this point, so I was like, okay, I gotta do something. So, I was looking around for protection symbols, circles, anything like that, right? Last thing I was thinking about was the pentagram, but that would have worked just fine, drawing a pentagram in the round. But I had a piece of plywood that I can remove, okay? I had that piece of plywood, on that piece of plywood, a marker, chalk, and a knife carved into that piece of wood, this protection symbol. And when I was ready to go into my temple, when I was ready to open up temple, and do my practice, and then I started doing the lesser vanishing, I would take that piece of wood and I'd put it down on the ground and I'd stand in that circle. Because I was hearing a bunch of weird crap like, if you're going to get out of your circle while you're doing your practice, make sure you make a door. And this is all visualization, but I wasn't where I am, anywhere near I am today. So I was just like, what the fuck, man? How do you make a door? What are they talking about? I had no idea. No fucking idea. And then I think it was a mailbag and or a company with Birch's information, and I was thinking about ritual tools for Frederick Xavier was talking about, and he said, if you can't feel it coming out of your fingers, well, then you're not ready for an athame. And then when you use the athame, you got to feel it coming out of the athame. And if it's not coming out of the athame, if you're not feeling the energy coming out of you, if you're not visualizing it and it's not bright, then you need to go back to your fingers and or find a different athame. And this is why you make your own athames. This works better, and that's why, I don't know if anyone ever seen it, but I made a video showing my first athame I ever made. Piece of fucking tin. Yeah, piece of tin. Jupiter's metal, mostly Jupiter's metal. And I just fucking took a pair of tin snips, and they're like fucking things that you would cut tree branches with and shit like that. And you'd say, well, how can tin snips fucking metal, tree cutters cut metal? Well, a tree that's still alive that has water and
sap running through it is very hard to cut. Way harder to cut than metal. Metal's not hard to get through. But anyways, so yeah, I just 2 sides that are sharp is the criteria. So if you have a thami, it's only got 1 side that's sharp. It's not technically a thami, but you can still use it because it all matters in your head, okay? But you want it to be double-sided. Polarity. There is no polarity, but there is polarity, you know? So those 2 sides of it make it a whole, whereas this is blade on the left, blade on the right. You know what I mean? It's biased, let's say, and a thami is not biased. Let it swing it this way, it's going to cut it up and down, it can't cut. So anyways, that goes in your right hand, being that your right hand is projective. So if you're having trouble feeling the energy coming out of you, let's say you're starting at earth grade, well, no, you wouldn't see that thing, and Brader said this in his newest video, and I love that he said it. You wouldn't technically use tools until you get to the grade where you make the tools. And the Kabbalah works and great work of self-transformation. The curriculum states in there, after every grade, you make the corresponding tool. So after the neophyte, you make a sensor. Right, I'm pretty sure, anyways. I think that's what it was. I don't know. It's something I forget what to make. Yeah, you make after the earth grade, you make a pentagram. You know, you have this actual pentagram, and then I think you make your altar in the north, which you start with the altar in the east, and this is why you make the sensor. East is air. It's not the air grade. I'm pretty sure I haven't got to see Chris the air grade. Well, you finished, but I'm pretty sure you make the air dagger in there, not the one. But you may, and they may have the one under fire, because some have it that way. I don't use it that way. If we're using the thami in our right hand, then to me it makes sense for that, but you can have both. You can have a fire, you can have a fire one, you can have an air dagger, you can have an air one, you can have a fire dagger, it don't matter. It's up to you. But if you follow the curriculum, and then switch your shit after. But anyways, so you make a pentagram, and then you make an altar in the north. Now, most places, if you look, when you start magic, you're either going to have your altar in the north, or you're going to have your altar in the east. Now, some shamanistic traditions, southeast, or southwest, possibly, I don't know. That's where the unconscious probably is. And if you look at your astrology chart, circle one, that kind of makes sense, because east is over here, that's your ascendant line, that's your conscious mind. The left side of the brain is your conscious, even though we associate that with the right. It's because the right controls the left side of your body, and the left controls the right side of your body. But these things are reversed. So what's your left eye here? From someone looking at you is your right eye. So this left side of my brain is actually the right side of my brain by someone looking at me like that. But anyways, so projective and receptive. So this, on my receiving hand, if I use it as a a protection ward, okay, then I can technically program this ring to be like the 6th ray star that I call upon during the middle pillar, during the lesser banishing of ritual of the pentagram, okay? And you go around, if you don't know the lesser banishing, you go in the east quarter, you say a god name that I won't say, and you draw a pentagram, depending on what you're trying to invoke and evoke. Now, there's a great practice to do when you're doing this, and you do it twice a day, once in the morning, once at night. And in the morning, you call into your being by bringing the light down. Well, that's during the middle pillar, but during this, you do start off with an invoking one, meaning you go clockwise to invoke, and you go winter shins, counterclockwise to banish, okay? So invoke and banish. So you go around the circle clockwise, and let's say if you're trying to bring in your passion, your will, your desire to do something you don't want to do, well then the fire element is the one you're going to want to invoke. And let's say it's thoughts, creative thoughts, to make a podcast, to draw a picture for some work assignment that you're drawing a blank on for a book. Well, then you want to bring in the air element, the east, and not spirit, not the top of the pentagram, not spirit, but east, south, west, north. No. Basically, east and west are opposite each other. That's water and air. And then north and south are opposite each other. So if you're north and south, if north is earth, it would be the left side of the pentagram. And then over here would be your fire. So the peak is spirit. And the next one over on this side would be your earth. And down here would be your fire. And then it would be your air. And then it would be your water. So this way it goes air, fire, water, earth, spirit. So like on my pentagram. Anyways, so on your ascending line is the east, that's your conscious mind. And on your descending line, that's the west. That's your unconscious, your subconscious mind. You're linked to the divine. So not unconscious, but subconscious mind, which links up to the divine. So being that the west, looking at the west is for your subconscious, well, what is west? Well, west is water. And east is air, right? So air and water, subconscious and unconscious. That's a good thing if I can remember. So what I want to say about, I guess what I'm going to get into, what I'm trying to say here is simply that being that east air and water, west woman, and east is, well, it's male, it's man, it's the male version, it's the male polarity versus the woman polarity, right? But and I don't think it's necessarily gender, but that's polarity. But it's both your minds, right? Your man mind, your female mind, okay? So the water is your emotions, right? So why is that the link to the unconscious? Why is that important? Well, the unconscious realm, I said it a few videos ago, maybe the last video, I don't know what I made, but I said thought forms. You gotta start thinking of everything from your personality, your personification, your name, to the fiction books, to the entities and egregores and shit that we create. All those things are thought forms, and they are in the unconscious. Okay, the unconscious is just full of fucking thought forms, and these thought forms are just everywhere, just chilling, having a big party, waiting to either be retired or whatever, but this is where they hang out. It's a real realm that we can't see, and we can affect that realm. And I think some people can see. The people that see spirits, ghosts, entities, reptilians, aliens, all this shit, they were born with the gift to be able to see thought forms. Whether it's the ones they create or other people create, they can see those things. That's why if someone is walking around with a bunch of thought forms around it, okay, they created a thought form of their dead mother. And the dead mother is exactly how they remember their mother from their point of view. Meaning that entity will know everything that the dead mother would know. Therefore, if someone sees that, they could be a psychic medium, and they could tell you stuff about your dead grandmother, then you'd be like, what the fuck? How could they know that? Well, your thought form you created that's hanging out beside you is right there, and it's telling her that information, showing her, it's doing whatever, you know what I mean? That's why people can hear things that aren't there, because they can hear the thought forms around them that they've created or other people have created, and these things can give you information. Just like these demons and these angels can give you information and help you out. So it's an important thing to remember. But more and more, I suspect, of certain people that are claiming to be gurus that aren't. And I won't mention any names because I don't like saying statements like this or talking about shit like that. But when people keep telling you to make polarity choices, like it either is or it isn't. Simple as that. Because if you don't believe it, well then you are trapped. And it's like, no, it's not. It doesn't matter. You can. Now, it depends on how you are and what you're doing. But if you are taking a stance of the Bible is symbolic, it's highly symbolic. Well, the most depolarized person I know would be, and I don't know him personally, but Frederick Xavier. You know, he's killing the game. He's great at magic. He's telling me all I've known. He's helped probably fucking upwards of 500,000 people would be my guess. And I might even think it's more than that. But, you know, he says the Bible's highly symbolic, okay? And I'm not saying his word is bond, but what I'm saying is I believe that. Lots of other people believe that. So for someone who says, no, the Bible was always there to fucking hurt you,
Sure, it is. It might be. It might be there to trap you, enslave you, and make you do bad things, make you believe in a God that's not going to serve you, believing in all these thought forms that aren't going to give you anything, put you in cross conditions, and keep you on the fucking cross and not being able to move with your fucking hands pinned there. Probably. But if you take that Bible and you fucking bend it to do your will and use those messages in there to help yourself out, well, then there's nothing fucking wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and that's exactly what you should be doing with any documentation, any book, anywhere, anytime, everywhere. So people like that, I tend to think they're either polarized against certain things, meaning person was in love with Christianity and all of a sudden they were hoping Christianity was going to bend to their will, and, you know, okay, these things aren't good, but since God loves me, he'll still, you know, hook me up and accept me for it. And then when they talk to the priest about it, the priest told them, no, you can't do that. You're fucking bad if you do that. Well, then they got mad at Christianity and threw the baby out with the bathwater. It's like, this whole fucking book is bullshit. And that's fine. You know, you can do that. You don't need that book. There's plenty of other books you can call on. But don't go around telling people to fucking listen to you and either pick the Bible to follow or not pick the Bible to follow, and tell people, I respect people more if they either believe in Christianity or they don't use the Bible at all, instead of these people that are halfway in the middle. It's like, no, if you aren't somebody working for, you know, against spirituality, okay? Let's say you actually legitimately are helping spirituality out and you just polarize against this. Well, inadvertently, to me, what the person like this is saying is, don't be depolarized. You need to be either polarized for or against the Bible. Don't be in the fucking middle. Just like, did we go to the moon? Did we not go to the moon? There's too many variables. I don't know what happened. No, pick. We went to the moon or I didn't go to the moon. They are trying to get you to believe one or the other. And the reason they want you to do this, and I'm not saying that's what anybody that I'm actively investigating to see if they're a fucking real or a fraud, but I'm not saying that that's what they're doing, but it seems likely and plausible that that could be part of the plot, as they can get you to pick a side. It doesn't matter which side you pick, but if you start picking sides, then these sides are both controlled against you. Like I said, when it comes to the moon landing, it doesn't matter if we went there or not. What should be focused on is the atrocities that happened behind the scenes while the whole fucking space race was going on. The fucking 2 concentration camps no one's taught about, that happened in the Gulag Archipelago, and I don't know the name of the one that happened under Mao's China, because no one written a book about it, I don't think anyways, but I forget who was the one who was responsible for uncovering those atrocities, but Solzhenitsyn, I think it is, who did the Gulag Archipelago. You know, it's just insane. So getting people to focus on one or the other instead of the middle, well, that's what that accomplishes. It gets you to believe, if you believe that this happened, there's no way you can believe that other thing happened. And there's no way that you can believe the government or whoever is hiding a story from you. So that's why they want you to believe a story. Well, one of many reasons they want you to pick a side. So I don't like that when I see shit like that. So, but anyways, and then if these same people are telling you you don't want to go into your unconscious, you don't want to release any of these thought forms into the unconscious, because whenever you do that, if you do that yourself and you don't know what you're fucking doing, well, then you're going to release your childhood trauma into your mind. And I'm sure that's kind of true on a level. I believe it is. But in the same sense, you kind of have to. So that woman who's at the psychic medium getting a reading done, and her mother's beside her, okay, that thought form she created, well, she is holding something. She's not letting go. She can't let go of the fact that she didn't get to say goodbye, that maybe they got into a fight before her mother died, that, you know, she feels bad that she's never seen her enough, whatever the case is. So she's got this thought form following around because that thing is always on her mind, and she's constantly putting the sad and miss you emotion into it. So she just keeps it going. And so that thing goes to the person who can see thought forms or hear thought forms. It could be one or the other, or it could be both as well, and tells them that, you know, she's really holding on to the fact that she's beating herself up every day. She's holding on to this charge, and it's fucking up her whole life. Her husband's ready to leave her and cheat on her because he's not getting laid. Her kids don't see her, and when they are beside her, she's not even there. And, you know, everybody's suffering, and, you know, the way she feels about her mom, she's going to do the same thing to her kids. So it's fucking up her life. So you got to get rid of me somehow. You got to get her to let it go and say it's okay. So then she tells the girl this in the way that she interprets it. And the thing is, it's going to be pretty accurate, right? Because that girl created that thought form of her mother. So it's all her memories. I mean, it's connected to the unconscious, so it has all the actual attributes. But the most potent ones that'll come to the surface more are all the ones that she created it in it, because it's her thought form of her mother. It's her version of her mother. It's everything she remembers about her mother. It's all the memories that come to the surface more often, more than the other ones, you know what I mean? So it's definitely sorry about that. It's all the shit that she's going to be thinking about, you know, the ones that come, all the unconscious memories, and even stuff that she can't remember. She's like, how the fuck she know that? I wasn't even thinking about that. Well, that's crazy. That's freaky. But she'll get this person to release this and let this go. She's like, you gotta let her go. You gotta let her go. Pass on with the other realms. You gotta let her go. And she's not gonna tell you the truth, because then the gig's up, right? It's a thought form you created. It's not really your dead mom. First of all, who's gonna believe that? And second of all, then she's got no more work, because she's openly saying, hey, there's no such thing as spirits. I'm a psychic medium that sees these things, but these things aren't really there. They're created things by you. So the gig's up. She's not going to say that, but she gets her to let it go. She gets that. She basically retires, gets that person to say the right command, the right code to retire or kill that entity that she created. That's all that's happening there. And so, is that a dangerous process? No. But you're going to break down, you're going to cry. It creates emotional blocks, it creates emotional bullshit, and it's gonna hurt. You're going to feel like you're losing your mom all over again, because you had this entity with you that you created, that you're carrying around with you, so you feel her presence with you almost all the time. You know, people think they're being watched, people think this and that, and it's like, no, you got a bunch of fucking entities you created around you. Some are holding you back, and sometimes when you're in a good mood, some of them are actually helping you do things, but you know, you got all these things around you, you gotta let them go. So this girl will get them to let it go. So when this person is telling you to pick a Bible story, pick a fucking conspiracy side and not just be in the middle. And if you're trying to release, connect your subconscious to your conscious mind, you don't want to do that, because you're gonna bring all this is where the demons are, the entities are, the monsters, the ghosts, the paranormal, all this shit. It's all there. Well, if someone's saying that, it's no different than the guy who was telling you, when you make a sigil, it releases demons into your mind and it starts your possession. It's like, no, that's horse shit. That's fucking horse shit. These are things you do gotta let go. Because I've went over this many times, that your limbic system is your emotional brain. Okay? And the emotional brain is where emotions live. Okay? These forces that we've created, these forces that, holy fuck, man, girls, these forces that we didn't create these forces, but we personified them. Venus being love, Mars being passion, Jupiter being restriction, and, you know, organization and tradition, and the sun being the yes to Jupiter's no, and being the star of the show and the brightest one in the sky, and the moon being the second brightest, the one that's not noticed as much. You know, most people don't, they like talk about the moon all that much at night. I do, but most people don't. Whereas the sun, there's probably not a person in the day that doesn't talk about the sun, but at nighttime people don't talk about weather all that much. So it's second, you know, it's the unconscious. It's what comes out at night. It's associated with dark things, whereas the sun is associated with light. Mercury, you know, Mercury is sometimes the deceiver, he's sometimes the devil, he's the trickster, but he's also sometimes the healer, the smart guy, the Hermes, Thoth. But it can be demonized, it can be an archangel, you know, he's all over the place, all over the fucking map. He's probably the magician, the one you need to fucking connect to mostly. Alright, so where was that? So when someone's telling you that you're going to release these unconscious entities into your mind, and it's going to possess you, and you're going to become possessed by them, well,
I don't think so. That's not true. What happens is you're actively working on how to control these things rather than be controlled by these things. Okay? And that's the whole point of depolarization. That's the whole point of being in the fucking middle. Because when you're in the middle, these things can't possess you as much. Okay? Now, they say the greater ritual of the pentagram, or of the hexagram, is a way to reduce Saturn's effect on you. And I believe that's true. But another way to reduce a star's effect on you is the 6 to 10 to 12 months that you spend in the neophyte grade working on depolarization, balancing yourself, grounding yourself. These things will make you less reactive. Because what happens is when you become enraged and anger and you're passionate about something you fucking hate, well, what happens is you're calling into that Mars energy. And your body is starting to get into the same frequency. And once you reach that certain frequency, whatever one that Mars controls when it's unbalanced and it's in the rage, as soon as you hit that level, boom, then you're no longer in control. I mean, you kind of are, because you know what you're about to hit, you know what you're about to yell, but the thoughts of what you're about to do just keep coming to you super fucking fast, and you just keep acting on them, you know? So nothing else can communicate with you. So the point of depolarization and getting this under control is so that this shit doesn't happen. Being in the middle, you know, because if you pick the Bible, if you're either for or against the Bible, or you decide, oh, you know what, I'm not going to use the Bible, I'm going to believe it's all bad. Well, now you're able to be polarized. I'm able to polarize. When I start saying that the Bible is highly symbolic, the Bible can be used for good, it's not all bad, you're going to get pissed off at me. You're going to think I'm a fraud. You're going to think because you picked a side, and that side is right to you. And so anybody on the opposite side, you're against. And that's why you don't pick polarity. And that's why you shouldn't believe people that say that. So I'm not going to go as far as say these people are bullshitting you, or they're working for the other side, or he really is a Christian, and that's just a fucking bullshit story about a shaman. But, you know, it is what it is. He could be just polarized against that. You could be completely depolarized in all aspects of your life, except for one or two things, and you have childhood trauma. So, you know, if your dad worked for NASA and you saw people going to the space station, you know, anybody who says that NASA is evil and bullshit and they never went to the moon, that's going to affect you because you picked a side. You are for NASA because your dad worked there and you thought your dad was the greatest guy in the world. He was your hero. Who wouldn't, right? If someone said what my dad did was all bullshit and a waste of time and wrong and evil, I'd do the same fucking thing. Same thing for the church. You know, if you spend all your life learning about the church and people start saying it's fucking evil, you're gonna think they're fucking evil. You're polarized against it. This is how polarity works. Alright. What the fuck's going on, everybody? So, where I exactly left off, I don't know. I didn't even listen to it yet. I know I was talking about invoking, banishing. I was talking about people seeing thought forms. The thought form realm is filled with everything and anything, from fiction books to whatever, the things we put beside us, the things we talk about. So before I keep going, I know I talked about invocating, and I didn't get to the banishing part of the pentagram. I also didn't talk about or keep elaborating on a few things. But anyways, first thing I want to say is, if you are studying and looking into magic and you haven't gone into it yet, you know, keep doing your research, but you don't have to take my word for it. You don't. But the neophyte in the book, I posted the book Kabbalah Great Work of Self-Transformation on Facebook. Then Facebook had a problem when we put a link on there. They were putting my page, they were doing ads on my page, but anytime you have ads that take you off Facebook, they don't like that, so they deactivated the ads. Then they charged my account $15 with deactivated ads. I thought that was a little fucked up, but whatever. I thought it was like all hypothetical, you know? Technically right now you spend $1.37, and then on the day after the 5 days the ads are supposed to be posted, they told me I was deactivated, so I assumed, okay, well, I don't need to disconnect my PayPal or anything like that. I wanted to see how many people I could reach, and it would tell me, you know. Anyways, it's my stupidity, but still, if 2 out of the 3 ads didn't even go to anybody, and they didn't even, you know, be advertised to anybody, then I shouldn't have been charged for those 2. Maybe just the 1. But Anyways, point is, if you're still thinking about getting into magic, if you go on my Facebook, on my page, whether my page or you try to add me as a friend and I accept you, send me a message, or on anything else, and I'll send you the book. But the PDF is on my podcast. It's on various YouTube channels. I think Magic on a Budget, it's on there because it makes sense, right? You're doing magic on a budget, you're going to want a free curriculum to work out of. So I gave it the link to that as well in there. But the neophyte, you're just calling things to you. You're doing the invocation of the angels after the lesser banishing of the pentagram, and none of that does anything. Yes, the lesser banishing of the pentagram lights up the astral field. So if there is a bunch of energy in the astral field, to me, in other words, is basically somewhere between, the 95% of dark energy, dark matter we can't see, and the unconscious. And I'm not convinced that they're both not the same. So people going into space is basically like going into the mind of God. This realm that we're on, is also part of the mind of God, but it's going deeper into like the unconscious. Anything is possible. And if anybody out there has ever watched the show Lost when it was on TV, I forget how many seasons it had, but I love that fucking show. Well, if people watched that show and said they understood the ending, but they're not into spirituality or understanding how the subconscious creates reality, and they bought whatever bullshit people said that it was really about, they're lying to you. It's not about that. It's about creating reality. It's about how everything was just in the... Anyways, I'm not going to get into it, but I think in some ways that triggered the beginning stages of the doubt, putting seeds into my mind to come down this path. Because I've watched that show a few times since it's been well over like 10 years since it's been on. It's got to be like 15 years probably now. But anyways, good show. But get into magic as soon as you can, because the Bible, okay? And I get people when they say that the Bible is there to hold you back. The Bible is there to bring you down. The Bible is not your friend. I understand why they're saying that, because it's not inaccurate. It is written in such a way that the thought forms that you're believing in are not the thought forms that can actually be beneficial to you to manifest anything like money, wealth, and all that. People can pray to God if they believe that God will give them money. But then if those people turn around and read the Bible, they're going to get a sense that God does not want you to be rich. Therefore, and if they tell a priest, hey, I prayed for $1 million and it gave it to me. Well, depending on how the priest is and reacts to that. And nowadays it's not so bad anymore, because the priest would likely, yeah, that's great. Yeah, God gives, maybe you should give some to the church. And that's what he'd probably do. But back in the day, he'd be more likely to tell you that it just came from Satan, who you're praying to, because God wouldn't give you money, because the poor go to heaven and the rich go to hell. And that's just some bullshit, backwards fucking thinking. But when you're doing the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, we call those archangels to you. Those archangels that are around you there. Call them Abrahamic religions, call them whatever. If you don't want to use them because you don't believe in Abrahamic religion, that's fine. But to me, that's not their purpose. Their purpose is just to stand by your quarters. And if you need something to take down, if something bad starts happening, that's what they're there for. But in the neophyte, you're not even doing that. You're not calling anything into there. All you're doing is using your own visualization in a trance-like state. Basically, you're visualizing yourself being in space, or your mind is more accurate, and you are able to go into your mind and talk to your subconscious directly, which all it breaks down to is symbolism. So when you're doing your ritual and you ask for something as if it's already happened, you are telling the subconscious, like the TV telling the subconscious something, like the news telling you that COVID's bad, COVID's bad, COVID's going to kill you. Well, people scared, masked up, you know what I mean? They're more likely to get that shit because they're watching the shit that's putting that into their mind. Well, you're going into your own mind. And what you're doing is you're making it pure. You're banishing anything out of there. So that's what I was going to get with the whole invoking and banishing. So one way to do it, there's many ways to do it, and there's only a few of them that'll serve you. And I think you can alter this, and I think you can do whatever you want with this, but there's a banishing and there's an invoking. So in the morning, if you were to do one, you're invoking energy for the day. You're calling down that light, prana, to heal, to get your body up and running, to protect, to, fill your, whatever you want to think, it's your Danantion, full of full of prana, full of chi, full of ki. And then, you know, then you can circle that ki around you after. That's kind of my process. Microcosmic orbit brings it down. I call it into me, into my being, and then I get my ki bucket flowing around me. Protective egg, if you will, whatever color I want, depending on the day of the week, so on and so forth. But you do that first thing in the morning. And, you know, if you, like I said earlier, if you want thoughts, well, then you use the fucking air, you know, and you would start at the opposite one of air. So you'd start at water, go to air, and you can come back down to water, or go over to fucking earth if you want, and then down to fire, spirit, back down to fire, back down to water, back to air. You end on there. And then if you're invoking the thoughts, you do clockwise. Likewise, at the end of the day, before going to bed, so you don't have a bunch of thoughts going crazy in your head. Maybe you had a stressful day. Maybe you're worried about something. Well, you want to banish that worry, that anxiety. You want to rid yourself of that so you can go to sleep. The subconscious can work on it. So I banish that thought and I accept that it's all going to go well. And then, you know, you do the banishing way, water to air, and then that back down the water, and then maybe up to spirit, down to the side to earth, you know, and then back over to air if you want, but generally you would land on earth, and then you would start your circle the counterclockwise way. So earth, water, fire, air. Because whenever you go, when you bring something into being, you're using your thought plus action with emotion, and it brings it into earth, this realm. So if you want to decompose something, if you have thoughts, if you're having a shitty situation in your life, you're trying to get rid of your poverty. Poverty is basically you thinking, affirming, saying emotionally, and putting action towards you being without money. You want to get rid of that, well, you need to do the opposite way. So it's already here on earth, and you want to rid yourself of that. So you go water, get rid of that emotion, get yourself happy that I don't have this anymore. And you put action towards that. You do overtime, you look for a job, you stop spending money stupidly, whatever the case is, and you go back up to the thoughts, and you're having thoughts now of getting money, and then, you know, it's gone back down to earth. You don't even have to go, but make sure you're always finishing your circles, however you want to do that. And then, so you do that. Now, do you go around the circle the opposite way? Yeah, you do. You start off with earth, and then water, fire, air. That's how I do it. I break it down that way. And, you know, and this will relax you before bed. It clears your space. You know, your temple is an extension of you. And if you only have an altar somewhere around the house, or you break down the altar after you use it, someone sees it, oh, that's fine. That's still an extension of you. All those tools is an extension of your arm, but it's an extension of you. It's you talking to the subconscious mind. You are now the show. See, when you're walking around, you're in your conscious mind. You know, Corey LeBlanc's walking around doing his thing, talking to people. Okay, that's the conscious mind. People are meeting me, the conscious mind version of me. But whenever you're at your altar, you get in that altered state, hint, hint, and it's because you are now in front of your link to the divine. It's only you. You can have a big robe if you want, or you can go naked. Like I said before, I do the naked way if I can, and if I can't, then topless, no socks, whatever. I'll improvise, but I don't wear robes. I do the witchcraft way, and I go fucking nude if I can. Doing the ones in your head are also good because, you know, you can do anything in your head. I mean, you should still be visualizing and imagining while you're in front of your altar anyways. So it's not that much of a stretch to put yourself in front of your altar wherever you are, versus when you are in front of your altar, putting yourself up into space doing that. Now, one of the things that always fucked me up was the fact that the last one, Malkuth, has to be your feet in the ground. You're seeing the circle above and below your feet into the ground, and that's helped ground you. So if the whole world is at your feet and you're in the cosmos and you're so big that the sun and Jupiter in comparison are just tiny, right? And that's how they should be, because they're above there controlling you during the realm. While you're conscious, you're walking around doing things. But when you are doing a ritual, you are calling to them and telling them what you want to happen. Now, I'm not saying you control the planets. I'm saying when you're that fucking big in the universe and you keep visualizing those planets smaller than you, you can line them up like this. You can pretend like they're orbiting around you, but then, you know, Saturn being at the bottom, and then Mars or the moon, and then it'd be the solar, so then the sun, if you want, wherever you put them on your chakra diagram, your body, you picture them orbiting you around that area if you want. That's something I do from time to time, not always. Sometimes I just line them up, you know, this being feet, head, it doesn't really matter. That's up to you, but whatever serves you best. You have wiggle room with what you're visualizing, as long as you visualize things that are going to help you out. And these things will help you out. So, but invoking and banishing is part of the lesser banishing. So if you're doing 2 rituals during the day, well, if you're having bad thoughts about something, you can banish away, but it's good to do that at night. Cleanse yourself almost. You're cleansing yourself of that energy. Now, a meditation like the one with the magnets I explained a long time ago, you know, you're laying down, outside, inside, doesn't matter. Outside's probably easier, and you see this like big earth magnet come. Maybe it's kind of invisible, but a little translucid, and it takes all this gray, dark, maybe even lead, if you want, all these little shavings, filings, lead, whatever, pencil lead shit, you know what I mean, coming off of you, all this shit that you took from other people all day long. Magnet comes underneath you and it sucks it all there. Then another magnet comes above you. If you're laying down, you know, foot to head is horizontal, another magnet comes down to you after that. So the first magnet goes back into the ground, the second magnet goes back into the ground, then one on this side of you, one on this side of you, and one on both ends. This way it gets all aspects of your whole body, takes all that shit off. It goes into the ground, and Gaia, Mother Earth, matriarchy, matrix, whatever you want to call it, she transforms that into something positive again. Because negativity is useful. It may not be useful to you right now, but it goes down into the earth, and she can turn that into whatever she wants. She's going to neutralize it, put it back into existence, and it can go. You know what I mean? So these negative things that are latched on you, entities, energy, people, attacks, curses, whatever it is, it's in your aura. Cleanse that shit. So your aura is not all full of this crap that goes down into the earth and renews it, and then you can picture the bright light coming down from source, lighting you up, fluffing up your aura, making your aura fucking hard like a fucking egg. You punch it and you stop it. Holy fuck, I can't even get through my own aura. It's so strong. You know, whatever you want to do. I also do one, like I said before, from the book Sorcerer's Secrets and or Jason Miller, Protection, whatever. You know, he draws light down and he draws light from the ground as well. They meet halfway, grabs it halfway, pushes on his chest with a bunch of old Latin words as well. You know, behind here, O at your bottom part there where your ground chakra would be, and then pull that energy. It's red coming from the ground, it's white coming from above. And you're using both those energies to make this protective aura around you. That one works fucking sick. But you know, you can do that in between your lesser banishings and all that if you're feeling intense, or just, you know, just visualize something around you. I don't know why I'm talking about protection stuff. I'm guessing it's going to be helpful, but that's the way you do the invoking and evoking shits. Now, I can keep going on to the whole fraud and people bullshitting you about the whole whatever, but I really want you to get in your head that if you start magic now, you're going to stop creating karma. That's why the 6 months to a year is important, because you stop creating, you stop making karma. It's as you're working on depolarization, even before you get into the first grade, which takes care of your finance, and takes care of your finance and your health, which is the first earth grade, because you get into way cooler shit after that. And if you think, well, and people get into magic for their health, finance, or to get laid, well, you're taking care of 2 of those things right off the hop. But the neophyte, you're depolarizing yourself, so things will rub you the wrong way, so you're not positive or negative, so people don't push or pull you, and no one can move you. And when no one can move you, then you're not going to create karma, meaning you're not going to curse yourself. You're not going to be in a shitty mood because you're cursed and curse somebody else. Everything is electricity. Everything's a charge. The words we say is bond. It's God. It's whatever you want to call it. Logo. The word logo is describing a word that means way more than a word, right? The M for McDonald's, you know, we know it means McDonald's, and we know it means Big Macs, we know it means heart attacks, and we know whatever. But a logo means way more than just what a word means. Every word is basically like that. You can use words to your benefit or detriment. Your mind you can use the same way. benefit or detriment, and you want to start using it the right way. And that's what this teaches you. You stop obeying thought forms that tell you to be poor your whole life and not try this stuff. And then you start doing what you're supposed to be doing. And then whether you have thought forms and entities around you stopping you, holding you back, whether it's just simply you doing it, it doesn't matter how you want to look at it. You can look at it in so many ways, but pick a way that is helpful to you. And that's what the different systems are teaching, the different ways to look at what this is that we're doing. But it doesn't change the fact that the subconscious mind is your link to the divine, and the unconscious, I like to think of it as the state you're in when the magic happens, right? You stop thinking about your magic, so you're not holding on to it in your conscious mind, but you're doing some other repetitive thing that's habitual that you learned throughout your whole life to do, and all of a sudden it can come to you because you're in a receptive mood. But the unconscious, the universal unconscious, rather, would be, so maybe there is a universal consciousness, because that could be our collective consciousness. It's all linked up together, but I still think it's more like unconscious. But the universal consciousness is probably a way of saying our subconsciouses are just all linked, and that's how we can affect other people at any time. But then the universal unconscious is where all those other deities, thought forms, fairy tale, fake shit, real shit, whatever, dead ancestors, dead people, something you're holding on to, whatever it is, it's there. You can call on it, you can use it, or you can be used by it, and you might not want that. So anyways, the conscious and the subconscious mind, both our minds. The conscious is the newest mind. Everybody has subconscious mind, and even the cells in your body are part of that. Your conscious mind is a very small piece of the puzzle, but your entire body has another consciousness that you can talk to and ask to do things if you do it properly. But the conscious and the subconscious mind, both our minds. The conscious is the newest mind. Everybody has subconscious mind, and even the cells in your body are part of that. Your conscious mind is a very small piece of the puzzle, but your entire body has another consciousness that you can talk to and ask to do things if you do it properly, but not necessarily can you actually control it. Now, I did something today. I burnt my hand when I was fucking around with my candles and shit, and I had some specific water that I was cleansing some of my stuff with. Some of these things I got on now. That's why I had to wait this long to re-record, because I had to salt and water these bitches up and whatever else I do before I consecrate them. And something was hot because I had the water near the fire and the incense, and then I grabbed the thing stupidly because the smoke alarm was probably going to go off if I let the big fire and the cauldron go any longer. And then, because I use fire, I use air, I use water, and I use earth to cleanse. Salt water, that's what that is, the incense and obviously the fire. So cleanse them all after being buried in salt and water for a while, and then consecrated them. But I burnt myself before I consecrated them. So I bring my little portable pillar altar into the bathroom with me, and I'm doing my ritual naked in the shower, so it's not so weird. And my finger starts hurting again because I was using it, whatever. And so I tell Saturn I'm thankful for banishing the pain away and invoking the cells, the consciousness of the cells too. The ones that can heal, heal. The ones that can't heal, die off and regenerate before they die off and create new ones. And, you know, I'm in space in my head, and, you know, I'm thinking about this, so I don't feel the pain anymore at this point. But I had a little cold cup of water because, you know, what burns? Aloe vera works, yes, and different burning things. But if you can keep ice or really, really cold water on it, and I think you should gradually make the temperature hotter so it's an easier transition, because if you're always in really, really cold water, take it off, especially when it first happens, it's going to burn. But what I did was I kept it in there because it was starting to hurt. I didn't have to have my other hand do, you know, the sign of the enter anymore. And as I was doing that, I could feel bubbles, and, you know, the shower water was going straight down, not even near the hand, but where my index and my thumb, mostly my thumb, it felt like there was bubbles happening right there. And I'm like, this is weird, this is cool, whatever. It's kind of a weird tingly feeling. So anyways, I would just let it be. I did the whole thing, went out and did stuff, and it doesn't even bug me anymore. It was like spontaneous healing, and I had these little marks on there, but they're also gone as well. And I'm telling you, I'm no word of a lie. The flame was the size of my cauldron, so it was about this wide, this high, and there was a steel piece that I had the thing on top of, and that thing got fucking hot as hell. And you know, this thing was really hurting. That's my wife was bitching about it for a while, and now it doesn't, and I don't even have the marks anymore. So the consciousness you affect within your body when you do healing magic, that's how you do it. You have to talk to those cells. Now, there's more things I did than just that, but in all honesty, that's as simple as it can be, and you can get results if you have the connection there. It can be just talking to it after you've done it for so long. For someone who's in the neophyte to just start talking to their cells, the cells are going to be like, whoa, bud, you know, how many years have you been fucking us over? And now it's like 2 months into the neophyte, you think you can just talk to us? No, we need some more devotion first. But, you know, eventually you'll get there, you know, and because this is not something I try all the time. And truth be told, I've tried this many times, and, you know, healing magic is one of the harder ones for me to do, because it's hit or miss. But yeah, I can actually feel it tingling me now that I'm talking about it. But it's like the cells are like, yeah, he's talking about us, we're on TV, yeah. But anyways, but that, and this is something I got from Frater Xavier, so it's not my idea, but that's what he says, how he witnessed healing magic, or spontaneous healing the one time. He had a cut and it got half healed, and when he freaked out, like, oh my God, I can't believe it's happening. That was enough to stop it from happening. Like, you asked for something, we give it to you, and now you're freaked out that we're giving it to you. Like, you didn't think we were gonna follow through. So it stopped. And so he was left with half a gash. And, you know, that's, so anyways, in a later episode, he references that ad again, and he says, when you charge our amulets, our wards, our mojo bags, our objects, you know, when you consecrate stuff, it's the same thing. The metals, the stones, the pieces of wood, you know, the tree branches you have for your wand, the cup, the pentagram, our pentacle, you know, all this stuff, the thame, it's all programmable. Electricity flows through metal, gold, silver, copper, those are, you know, your high conductors there. Then you got brass, hydro brass, aluminum, a little lesser there, but still can conduct electricity. Well, why do you think that I said to put your fingers on the blade of your thame if you think it's not going through the handle? If your handle is rubber, after all, it's not going to. That stops electricity. So using something out of plastic or rubber, not such a good idea. They also say for your altar, your tools, depending on where you look, the nature spirits don't like things made out of metal. That's why, you know, especially if you have an athame, for some reason with that black handle, they really don't like that. So that's why that's the tool to banish, to project at something, because they don't like that, because you're able to affect that. See, nature spirits can affect us. Nature spirits are totally different than thought forms. Now, could they be thought forms? Potentially. But the reason I'm iffy on that is because, to me, a thought form is anything that doesn't have a nature spirit, is a spirit of the things that we see growing in nature. It's like the trees see us, but maybe they don't see our spirit. We see the trees. We know they're growing, we know they're breathing, we know they can die, but we can't see their spirits. Maybe some people can, but you know what I mean? So when we talk about nature spirits, they talk about fairies, and they talk about all these different things, especially with water spirits as well, air, fire spirits, all those things. That's like the elemental. Okay, the element is the actual thing, the water coming out of your tap. The salt is the earth element that's in your cupboard. The fire on my candle is the fire element. You know, the air I'm breathing that we can't see right now is probably the most, you know, weird one, and that's why it's linked to spirit, but it's not quite the same thing. But that's why it kind of is the same thing, because you can't actually see air, but we all know it's there. But once again, air is kind of alive. You know, maybe not as alive as that tree out there, because that tree uses air, It needs fire as well, and it also needs water. But that's another topic. But then the elemental is the spirit. You're calling in the spirits, and you don't leave those guys coming. You don't leave them around. You got to get rid of them, because the elemental can influence the element. And I think that's the same thing with us. So our spirit, us, our thought forms, the things we create that we don't even know we're creating, can influence us. We can create something we don't know is there that can influence us, that can screw up our life or can make it better. Magicians, witches, make thought forms to go out there and do something for them, whether it's bring back information to them, whether it's protect them in their home, whether it's to go out there and make awareness for their YouTube channel, whether it's to protect the YouTube channel from the swine, so on and so forth. And I think that's what it's like. We're the element, and then these thought forms are the elementals around us. Maybe they have to help people and they get to advance. And maybe if you're using an element, maybe you're using a thought form that's around you for so long, always influencing you over and over again. And whether it's a negative one or a positive one, maybe your next incarnation, that takes over the next time. That one gets a personification, who knows? But point is, it's time to start doing magic, because the more people that get involved in magic, I'm not going to stop anybody. I'm not going to stop putting the message out there, because people need to take control of their life. But if you want to do something, the less people's minds are actually guarding the gates of their mind, the more sheep there are out there following these religions, telling them not to use their mind. You know, when they keep creating these elementals that keep them down, well, it's their own fucking fault. There's a lot of information out there. If they don't want to take it on, if they don't want to learn about it, that's their own damn problem. But the sooner you start, the better you'll be. All this stuff takes time. But I'm telling you, one day it's just going to be like, I can't believe I ever wasn't doing this. And then one day it's just going to be like, oh my God, I can speak things into existence. For me, it's not like instantaneous, but it's within days. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times I just say something and then it happens. And it's just because of the constant watching this stuff, the constant doing this stuff, the constant candles asking for different things. And it's all starting to happen because I have that faith, and it takes time and results. But it takes time to develop that faith over time, that everything's going to work out, everything's going to be okay. I mean, at the beginning of the year, I told my wife, well, how good it would be to get an extra $2,000 a month. And then this SERP thing fucking comes out, like, so it's crazy. But anyways, so when you consecrate your items, what you're doing is talking to the consciousness that this metal has, the consciousness that, this has, that your wards have. Okay, there's a consciousness in there. If you go back to science class, all atoms are vibrating, some at a higher, some at a lesser frequency, but they're all moving. Everything's moving all the time. My one buddy, we were talking, and I'm like, well, this is not how I think of it, but I think it kind of works like this in a certain sense. Our brain, if you were to take a computer that's running a program, or your Xbox that's running a video game right now, but you were to just look at the program running, you had like MS-DOS or whatever, some kind of, when you hook up your car to like a fucking computer and it tells you what's wrong with it. Well, something like that, you hooked it, right? That, or the hardware maybe if you want, that turns those ones and zeros into your environment around you. So if you want to alter the game, alter the code, you have to talk to the part of the brain that is doing all this. See, this one part here is just your character. It's just the character that you were allowed to make. You got a hand in the game, right? You start the game, you make your character. If it's a wrestling game, you make a wrestler. If it's a hockey game, you make a hockey player. If it's a shooting game, you create your shooter, you know what I mean? And you get to make them stronger with the more experience you get, right? Experience plus intelligence brings on wisdom. So you got a hand in the game, but that's your personification. You are molding your personification as you go. Well, that's that one half of your brain. That's all that is. But this half is taking care of all this and everything out here. But really, if you hook up a machine, it's just going to be ones and zeros. It's just going to be showing that matrix code. That thing that Neo sees at the end. He's like, I see it, I get it. And then he can just do whatever he wants. because he's able to affect the code while he's conscious. Okay, from both halves of the mind. That's what you do in ritual. Anyways, I think that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. Alright, what's going on, everybody? Illuminati in the house. No, I know the eye's not at the top, so you can be like, oh, he might be Illuminati, but he's not the one at the top of the pyramid. And fair enough. I'm making my way up though, bitches. Haha. Seriously though, I want to try a little experiment. Depending on where you are in your magical, whatever. If you're doing your neophyte, then I don't want to sound like a prick and cocky bastard. Like, don't do this in your neophyte, but maybe in the earth grade or with grade after that. No, that's not what I mean. But maybe just as an experiment for a couple of weeks or a month. Take on the Illuminati personification and characteristics. And I don't mean going around oppressing people, but I mean that you are all powerful, that your thoughts create reality. Take on that. Actually believe that that's what's happening around you, and that you can make things happen just by thinking certain ways and saying certain ways. But also take on the Illuminati, right? Maybe write on the candles that I'm a member of the Illuminati. I am an enlightened one. And this way, everybody hating on the Illuminati, you'll take their power and you'll be able to use it towards your manifestation. That's like money when it comes to magic, or it's what allows you to get money or anything you want. So, but yeah, all that to say that I gotta be honest, I'm pretty impressed with the rate of the people being reached on Facebook via my page, not necessarily my ceremonial witch and then last name craft personal page, but I mean my actual ceremonial witchcraft page. I just put on 1 to 12 of my first episodes of my podcast on there. It's the links to that. I haven't made a podcast in a long time, and you know that's my thing. I love doing the podcast, probably more than the video. Not for any particular reason, just that the podcast, I find the juices get flowing better. There's more time. There's just so much to think about. But be prepared for, me starting to record more. Not necessarily maybe the podcast, but doing episodes and shit on YouTube and maybe Instagram and obviously maybe Facebook as well now. But just because, as you can probably tell from a lot of my videos, I record most of them in a car. Therefore, anyways, I'm very tired right now, so I don't want to make this longer than it has to be. But the page, basically, it's one of those business pages, right? So it's basically saying I'm selling something. And I just want to clear that up and say I'm not necessarily selling something unless you want to buy something from me. But I'm not necessarily teaching. I put out teachings, I put out videos that I think people can use the information in a helpful way. But my information is designed for people already doing this stuff. It's not necessarily for a brand new practitioner to just watch my videos and become their own solitary practitioner and somehow, become an adept. But what my information does do is I give you Liam Thomas Christopher's book. Okay, the title, I give you a vague outline of the things that I had to do, what I do within there, and how I do them. I've given the PDF on both the podcast and on YouTube and the description for that book. And on YouTube and the description for that book for free on your phone or wherever you want to download it on. But I have to cut this off there short because my eyes are closing behind these glasses once again. But so if anybody wanted me to perform magic for them and manifest something for them, I don't think I would even do it right now because I'm not trying to do somebody else. I'm trying to do myself. So I'm not selling anything at the current moment. But everything is subject to change because it's the only variable we can predict with any. I just went over because cut off because of a phone call the first time, so then I hit the record again, and then I was saying I wouldn't do magic for somebody, and then it's just me like and you can't see because the shades are on, and that's the reason, but like I fell asleep, just in the middle, and then I'm like, I come to and I look at the phone. I'm gonna cut that out so you don't see it, but you know, just if you notice that happens, or I start saying stuff that makes no sense, it's probably because I drifted off to sleep. But I just wanted to talk about the fact that you know, people sell programs to help people and to help themselves at the same time, and you know, there's this law of exchange, the law of law of talked about it yesterday, compensation. Basically, nothing is just given. There always has to be an energy, an exchange of energy in some form. So basically, if you're buying teachings from someone like Frederick Xavier because you want to learn how to do specific money magic, or you know, love magic, or whatever, if you buy something from him, he's going to teach you his method of how he did it. But within the method that he does it is where the real teaching is. So you can take word for word what he says, how he makes a sigil, what he does, what kind of pencil he uses, what kind of paper he uses, all the correspondences to the times, the planetary hours, all this stuff. And you're going to have his technique, and that's what you're basically paying for, is his technique. And you know, all the time it took him to make that. But what I've done is, without buying any programs from any of these guys, I've filled in the blanks, all the stuff they said and all the things they didn't say, and all the things that I could, you know, whether it was an image I got in my head as he was saying it, or just somebody else gave similar stuff out for free, and you know, I picked up on it. It doesn't matter, and maybe my techniques aren't the same techniques you would learn from one of these people, but they work. And the thing I notice is when I explain some of this to people, now whether it's somebody who's actively wanting to know about this, or it's somebody who's just trying to prove me wrong, what I notice is I get, let me word this right. Holy shit, I dozed off again. Anyways, the thing I notice is people don't believe what I say. This kind of plays into the whole thing. Free knowledge, free information is worth just that. You know, it's not worth anything because it's given for free, so people don't think it's accurate. Well, in the same sense, when it comes to magic and the things we do to either reprogram your mind.
Okay, so match.
You know, become an adept. I give you and on YouTube and the description for that book for free on your phone or wherever you want to download it on. But you know, people sell programs to help people and to help themselves at the same time, and you know, there's this law of exchange, the law of law of talked about it yesterday, compensation. Basically, nothing is just given. There always has to be an energy, an exchange of energy in some form. So basically, if you're buying teachings from someone like Frederick Xavier because you want to learn how to do specific money magic, or you know, love magic, or whatever, if you buy something from him, he's going to teach you his method of how he did it. But within the method that he does it is where the real teaching is. So you can take word for word what he says, how he makes a sigil, what he does, what kind of pencil he uses, what kind of paper he uses, all the correspondences to the times, the planetary hours, all this stuff. And you're going to have his technique, and that's what you're basically paying for, is his technique. And you know, all the time it took him to make that. But what I've done is, without buying any programs from any of these guys, I've filled in the blanks, all the stuff they said and all the things they didn't say, and all the things that I could, you know, whether it was an image I got in my head as he was saying it, or just somebody else gave similar
stuff out for free, and you know, I picked up on it. It doesn't matter, and maybe my techniques aren't the same techniques you would learn from one of these people, but they work. And the thing I notice is when I explain some of this to people, you know, whether it's somebody who's actively wanting to know about this or it's somebody who's just trying to prove me wrong, what I notice is I get, let me word this right. Holy shit, I dozed off again. Anyways, the thing I notice is people don't believe what I say. This kind of plays into the whole thing. Free knowledge, free information is worth just that. You know, it's not worth anything because it's given for free, so people don't think it's accurate. Well, in the same sense, when it comes to magic and the things we do to either reprogram your mind, to talk to spirit, deity, to talk to the other side of the other half of your brain, to do divination, to do tarot, whatever we're doing. The techniques are subtle. The channeling, the spirits, the thoughts, the things that come in are subtle, and they gradually get easier and easier to pick up on and hear and follow and listen, but it's still always a very subtle thing. Alright, what's up? Okay, so, oh man, that was brutal. I'm not gonna delete it. I'm not gonna, I cut out the parts where I kept fucking crashing out, but I'm not gonna get rid of the whole thing, even though I'm fucking sound like I'm overtired, drunk on some kind of Xanax or forget the family it's in, but benzos, on some kind of benzos, fucking zoning right out, or I'm on the nod from fucking too many opiates, which isn't the case because I don't do that, but I'm gonna keep that there because I was trying to get to something. And in all honesty, I was trying to make this as like a welcome fucking video on the fucking Facebook fucking page. But what a hell of a welcome, eh? So, but anyway, so I had about a 2-hour nap so far, and I had to bring my second oldest daughter, my third oldest child in total. But I bring her to her friend's house. Her friend's mom works at a flower shop, and she brings her daughter to work with her to get her out of the house, which was fun for the daughter for a while. But now it's kind of repetitive, but it's still better than having the kid at home or having to pay a babysitter or whatever the case may be. So, you know, it's all good. And, you know, my daughter's allowed to go there and hang out with them, which is fucking awesome. I love it. I love that kind of shit. It's fucking sick that people are just doing things like this. It's amazing how people, you know, just... Anyways, so, but what I'm trying to get at, what I was trying to say was the things I learned, the things I picked up by trying to do this shit on my own, by my lonesome. The things that I got from Frater Xavier, because Frater, I'm telling you now, that Mystery School series, because you could say, okay, he's paying, you got to pay for his programs, and the shit he teaches on there is just really, it's all free info, but he doesn't really say anything, and that's not true. He tells you a whole lot, and once you actually do what he says, you read the book he tells you to do, and you do the fucking exercises in the book, and you do the depolarization techniques, and you do all the necessary work along with this, you're going to start, I mean, for me anyways, and a few other people that I know doing the same things, they're just like me. They pick up correspondences very simply, and picking up correspondences is amazing, and it's really helpful in so many fucking ways. And the way that this has helped me out when it comes to learning occult knowledge from people who aren't staying specific occult knowledge is when they start drawing on something, when they start saying something that is, you know, related to or part of their magical system. Well, they start drawing on something, and then I get a message in my head, I get a vision in my head, and it's like a correspondence of what they're talking about in a different sense. So I get to learn how to do the magic without them actually saying how to do the magic. This is what I'm talking about, how you can pick up occult knowledge out of anything. The way you can just break down movies and how the occult symbolism is, and so on and so forth. The same thing happens when you're listening to somebody who their YouTube channel is primarily, and this is not what Frater or Birch is. They have a lot of good free information on there that gives you sigils, that gives you fucking spells, He does a whole honey jar fucking spell to get money. He teaches you how he did the healing magic and references the book. I mean, there's so much good shit on there. But the things that he may be vague about that you don't really understand, well, if you wait and you go back and you look at it later and you actually do the things he says to do, or the book he refers you to, then you're going to be able to pick up exactly what he's trying to get at. And that's why when people say the only source of knowledge you need is to be in touch with your internal source. This is what they mean when you start picking up that internal law of correspondences, and you start being able to pick up information out of the air, okay, that you wouldn't have got before, that other people don't get, then this is the way you do magic. But in the same sense, at the same time, I don't even have to do that anymore. So if I feel like I'm stagnating, or I'm getting to a spot where, I need to freshen shit up a little bit, and maybe I'm getting stale, maybe I'm getting bored, I don't know. But whatever the case may be, I'll watch the Mystery School playlist again, which is kind of what I'm doing now. But I do my own magic. I make up my own rituals. I do the same basic things I started with, which is everything from recording down affirmations or hypnosis scripts on the fucking recorder and play them while I'm going to sleep. And when I first wake up on a loop, I do sigils that correspond with that. I take the statement of intent that I made the sigil out of, or I pulled all the consonants out of, and I put that on a recorder, or I just write that multiple times in a book. I keep adding to my affirmations that I can listen to throughout the day. I write that same statement of intent on the fucking candle. I'm doing candle magic, and then I use that candle during my fucking ritual, and I visualize, I use the fucking emotion anyways, there's so many things. I stack all that magic, all those little things I learned. But then when you add the reject, banish, deny thing throughout the day, when you're getting the thoughts that are going to try to pull that away from you or stop you from receiving that, well, you use that and with all that other shit I just said, then you're golden. And if you're doing this, if you're going the self-hypnosis way with a recorder, or you put on the right frequency for it, put you in the theta state. But if you're doing magic, you want to be in the alpha state. You use frequency to your benefit. That's something I picked up from high percentage magic. So what I'm saying is, you can pick up the right information from all these people. And what I'm trying to promote and say here is that I've done this already. I've done this for you. Now, maybe these people won't work for you, and there's somebody else out there that worked better for you. But nonetheless, what you'll find is, when you do find somebody you resonate with more right now, because where you're at, there's somebody out there who you're at their level right now. Maybe it's me, maybe it's somebody else. And then eventually, when you get above the level that they're teaching at, or you're just a little more advanced or whatever, then whatever you picked up from someone else is going to come back into play if you remember it or written it down or whatever, or you're going to come back to it and you'll be able to draw on it. So everybody's at a different level, but they're all little pieces. It's the same way that I believe religion all has a piece of spirituality, and you got to combine almost all of them together: the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful. You got to combine them all together to get to spirituality. But everybody is different, so we shouldn't have the same way, same technique, or same spirituality. All right, so I don't know where I was leaving off, but the point I was trying to get at is, I was trying to write a big. I was filling out the description part, redoing my description part, because someone left a comment stating that I made a mistake. I was instead of they. Receive results every time. So I scrapped the whole old comment and I wrote like a big comment that had, it was like 225 characters long, like the letters in it. And that's what I thought I was allowed, but it was characters. 250 characters mean spaces, and I had 1,000. So I ended up putting a post just stating what my description I wanted it to be was, And I just put a small little vague one there in its place, but because like I said earlier, this is a page that's designed and set up as a business for selling something, right? But I'm not selling anything to anybody. What I do is I create content based on the practice that I've developed through mainly the curriculum from Kabbalah, the great work of self-transformation, and different spiritual practices that I call witchcraft, even if some of them don't consider themselves witchcraft. But you know, it takes a specific thing. If a system is taking in energies that are like elementals or are similar and correspond to elemental energies or the energies in your body, and if it's trying to sway the mind, whether it actually uses deities to use it for as symbolism for your subconscious mind, or it's using energies, or it's using planets, or it's just talking about how to get into contact with the subconscious mind. To me, that I consider magic, and I consider it, you know, either I put it on the ceremonial magic, or you know, any kind of magic really. And witchcraft is within there. Witchcraft I chop up to or put in the classification of pagan style earth worship, earth elemental worship, you know, using the earth, air, fire, and water and spirit, anything that takes thought forms into consideration, stuff like that. So I like the witchcraft. I feel a pull to the witchcraft. I explained this early on in my episodes that my grandmother was and called herself a witch, being the seventh sister of a seventh sister, which was a way back when, say, if all else failed and you had a family member that was sick or had an issue, well, if you went and saw the town weirdo, the shaman, the seventh sister, or, you know, which was an old woman with lots of cats or whatever, you know, these were superstitions. But if people believed in it back then, that these people could heal you, that these people had powers. And you know, my grandmother was born with those kind of powers, and I was taught that as a kid. Now, am I a witch blood? I don't go around saying I'm a blood witch or anything like that, but when I trace my family's heritage, I've traced it all the way back to, Dutch, France, I don't know, England, there's a few places, but anyways, it's pretty old where my grandma comes from, and she was part of the witches that came to North America, who lived in harmony with the native reserves, but then Christopher Columbus followed them there, or maybe not even him, maybe somebody either prior or after him, but they followed the witches here to persecute them because they were fleeing persecution over there. And they lived with, I don't know if it was a decade or more or a little under, but they lived within harmony with the natives here. The natives had their own spiritual practices that weren't quite the same as theirs, but they both had a common respect for each other and agreed to disagree on the petty, futile details that didn't really matter. And overall, they basically had a belief in a higher power that controlled the elements that you can also get in contact with, because you can talk to the part of your body that also has control of the elements. Now, people in our day and age, I don't know if it's me and them or us getting it twisted or not, because I'm back and forth, right? Like, I go as far to say that we are a god, so to speak, that we are higher than the God in the Bible, that we are higher than the demons and the angels. That's why we can command them and they do what we say. But does that mean that, you know, because if I banish the thought of rain, you know, and I can postpone rain for 5 minutes, or I can get it to stop, and I've done this many times. Well, not many times, but at least 4. But, you know, I've only tried it 5 times. So that's good odds. But point is, if we have this ability to contact whatever's controlling our world, and we can do it successfully, does that mean that we're controlling it, or does that mean we have a link to whatever ultimately controls it? And I think it's both. I think they're not synonymous. I don't think they're both different. I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's kind of both interlinked, and it's something that we can't really understand, because with whatever technology we have to date, we can't really test such a thing. So, but we do have the ability to contact divinity, divine, higher things, the thought forms that the spirits that we call angels and demons. I truly believe that these are created things. Now, created things doesn't mean that they're any lesser spirits, that they can't harm you. Doesn't mean that at all. But you have to allow it to harm you. You have to do, like the thing I was talking about yesterday, when you agree by, when someone coerces you to agree, when you say, I understand, when the cops is asking you if you understand, you normally think you're taught in school that it's polite to say, yes, you understand, acknowledge that you're wrong and shit like that. But if you're not actually in the wrong and you say, I understand, well, then basically what you're doing is admitting to something you didn't do, or admitting to something that, you shouldn't be admitting to. And it kind of plays into that whole thing. So if there's a demon and there's things on, let's say you're scared of demons, so you don't get into magic. And then you finally decide to try this whole magic thing now. And then for some reason, you start watching fear-based stuff that says, oh, it doesn't matter if you're not summoning demons. As soon as you make a sigil, whether it's somebody else's sigil that has nothing to do with demons, or a sigil you make to get money that has nothing to do with demons, as soon as you do that, a demon is going to affect you. And that gets in your head. And you understand that, which means you acknowledge that's real now, okay? Well, then you are going to bring in to your reality through yourself. You're doing this to yourself, no one else is. The person on the internet should have some of that karma, and this plays into the he who will be fooled, let him be fooled, or deceived, let him be deceived whole thing. He's deceiving you, so I don't think you're the one that fell for it. You agreed. So this is where karma, if you force something onto somebody, if you send a thought form to somebody, then you get the karma. But if you allow that person to create their own thought form because they're ignorant, then it's not on you. So don't go thinking that. But that's how this plays out. If coronavirus is a thought form, or even if it's a real virus, okay? If you allow that to affect you, then it can affect you. But if you don't allow it to affect you, if you reject every thought you get that you're going to have coronavirus, if you reject every thought you get that you're going to have cancer, and you say, no, my vibration is higher than cancer and I cannot be affected by cancer, well, then you won't be affected by cancer. That's how it works. I'm telling you right now. These things, your mind is powerful. And, if you're just saying those things and you're doing a bunch of things that are in line with someone who will get coronavirus, or in line with someone who would get cancer, well, then you need to put some action forth as well. At a certain point, you can't just be saying, I'm not going to get cancer, yet you're eating everything that is being shown to give you cancer, you are smoking, you are doing all these things, you're being around radiation constantly, wearing protective equipment. If you're doing everything in your power to get cancer, but you're only rejecting the thoughts, and, well, then you might run into problems there because, you're going to be out of balance. You're not going to be balancing it right. You're not going to have the right action plus the right thoughts to be able to fight that, I think that's part of it, but, don't quote me on that. But the point of all this is that the thought forms, the demons, the angels, these things, whether you think angels are good or bad, or demons are good or bad, they can't affect you unless you allow them to. And you can just use them simply to use them and be successful using them in a specific way. That doesn't make you have to, be subject to any kind of justice or any fucking you over shit. I don't know what I meant to say by that, but I had a point. But anyways, I'm at work right now, and I'll finish this video on my break if I can. Enjoy. All right. Enjoy. All right, what's going on, everybody? So it's definitely a new day. It's not my break time, but I gotta go get some potatoes and a few other things right now. So let's go for a ride, shall we? Notice how I got the car back and now I'm starting to record more again. How awesome is that? But anyways, so A few things. What I was previously saying, when I was going to with the whole, my grandma's seventh sister, and I don't say I'm from witch blood, even though I believe wholeheartedly that my grandmother was a witch. And once again, that's just a term that human beings created to describe a type of person, and actually it was probably used to demonize women, and it was probably a good term at one point, maybe then turned to a bad term, and now we're trying to reclaim that bitch again, that bitchy word witchy. But nonetheless, point is, I have the belief that programming, thought forms. Programming is a thought form. Affirmations are a type of thought form. Ritual magic is also could be considered as a thought form. But the point is, as a child, I heard stories about my grandmother, who was a witch, who was seventh sister of a seventh sister. Who, the point is, as a child, thought forms. Programming is a thought form. Affirmations are a type of thought form. Ritual magic is also could be considered as a thought form. But the point is, as a child, I heard stories about my grandmother, who was a witch, who was seventh sister of a seventh sister, who read tea leaves and healed people, and had to stop because magic was of the devil, according to the priests. I grew up with that, and I still believe that to this day. It'd be the equivalent if I still, at 34 years old, believed in Santa Claus. Well, he would be infallibly real to me. So I'm not saying my grandmother was a fake, like Santa Claus is fake, but what I'm saying is it's kind of similar. She's not a fake, but things that aren't real can be real to people because of programming. So I was programmed to be a witch because in my blood, I have the same blood as my grandmother. Now I'm not a seventh sister or seventh son of a seventh son or anything like that. But nonetheless, that runs in my veins, and I know that, and I know my experiences. I know what happened to me. But anyways, that's one thing I wanted to say. That's where I was going with that. Was about programming. You can be programmed to either believe in magic is real or not real, and what you see and feel and experience as a child comes to light. It's what your reality is made up of. But something else important I wanted to touch on as well before I get into some newer stuff about the yesterday stuff. When I was watching it, I saw something like, ooh, I gotta expand on that. Can't remember what the fuck it was. But what I just said about affirmations being a type of thought form, it's the reason you gotta do affirmations a lot, over and over and over again, for them to become real or workable or be put into you. Oh, sorry, there's fucking bad traffic here. But Frederick Xavier. Well, the first place I ever heard that was with Frederick Xavier. He said affirmations is like a thought form, or maybe if I find the clip after, I'll play that for you. But shit, something's open. My door's open. Fucking stupid. But he said affirmations is like a thought form, and thought forms are habits that we have deep inside of us that are automatically play out for us. Basically, is what a habit is. So it's something that automatically plays out within you. You've done it so often that it just automatically happens. And this is what thought forms are. And you can say, well, when I think of a thought form, I think of like some entity you create. Well, yeah, you can think of it as that way, and that's beneficial, but that's the human way to perceive what a thought form is. It doesn't make it any less real, but it doesn't mean it's exactly what it is either, So that's something to really, really understand and get into your head at an early start, is that just because we are... Ladies and gentlemen, what the fuck is going on? You know who it is? It's me, the C-O double... No, I don't got no double. C-O-R-E-Y. That doesn't even make sense. It's Corey LeBlanc up in this bitch. Haven't made a podcast in a fucking while. And this one's actually coming to y'all fresh. Fresher than fresh. I don't know what song I just played because I'm recording this at a different time, but you know how I do. But it is what it is. So, what's going on, y'all? thank you for tuning in. And I really want to sincerely thank everybody who's been downloading and tuning in to my podcast over and over and over and over and over again. It's been a pretty successful time considering I haven't been making any podcasts. Last week, 290, I think, downloads. Prior to that, 240. Prior to that, 200. Over and over and over again. It's been pretty fucking amazing. So I want to thank everybody who tunes in and downloads. You really make me. You put a lot of joy in my heart knowing that you guys are enjoying using my stuff. So now that shit's out of the way, and that's nothing that's light or I take for granted. I do not take anybody downloading my podcast for granted. I do not take anybody who listens to my stuff for granted. This is why I've always said, if you want to subscribe and follow, that's fine. I don't give a shit about that. It's more about the information getting out there and people listening to it than it's about having subscribers and making money off of it. But as an added bonus, that I think it was $14 or $15 that I got today, deposited in my bank for a podcast that I haven't made an episode probably in about a month, over a month. Yeah, I think it was like July 11th the last time I did a podcast episode, and we're almost in September, so that's a month and a half. Well, that's more than a month and a half, really, because September's tomorrow, so. And to get that, and because right now I think my accumulated money was almost at $30. So they took $10 off there, so there's still 20 in there. So that means as soon as they pay me, the leftover automatically is coming to me next month. So now I have almost about $18 American that's going to be coming to me next month. And then the accumulation from now until the next time I get paid will be for the following month. So all that's to say is this isn't about the money, and that's for my podcast, something I haven't even been doing anything for. YouTube, I don't qualify for a partner because I don't have the subscriptions or the followers or whatever, subscribers or the views or any of that shit, or the time, minutes watched, whatever it is. Plus, every video I have content on it, like I'm going to have today on this show, George Carlin Stand Up, and his interviews, which is interviews and things of more of a serious nature, what I'm going to be focusing on. But those things automatically, whenever they get flagged for a reason, and it's so that you can't monetize those channels using someone else's shit, even though you're allowed to play someone else's shit. And that's what people don't get about the copyright bullshit, is you're allowed to play someone else's stuff. And there's a copyright claim, and the claim is that if you monetize this channel, if you make money off this channel, they get a cut or the full thing depending on, and so basically they're claiming my property. But if I take off that shit, the whatever part they're claiming, well, then they have no right to any of my shit because it's all mine. So you are allowed to play other people's shit. You just get copyright claims. Now there is some stuff that when you go to put it on your channel, it will not publish your video whatsoever, at all. You'll upload your video and you won't even see it uploaded after it's already uploaded. It'll be in your fucking YouTube studio, but it will not be on your channel. No one will have access to it except for you. This happened to me when I tried to put the song Renegade by Eminem and Jay-Z on, I don't know, maybe 4 videos ago on my YouTube. And it was just because I was talking about Ralph Smart, and Ralph Smart, how he was talking about Hollywood. And then he started bagging on the Druids, WITCHCRAFT of the wise, saying that the Druids are manipulating people using Hollywood wands to cast spells over the masses. And I took a little bit of offense to that because I know that's not accurate. Now, Hollywood is a reference to the holly tree, which is holy wood, which is deck your halls with boughs of holly. It's the same shit. It's all the same shit. The Christians are doing the same thing apparently. So I took a little offense to that, and I corrected him in a very calm manner and tried to uphold as much respect for him. And then I said a couple things that might have been disrespectful, such as he can't say anything he wants, like he claims. Like, he would never go and say, he says, no one's coming to save you. You got to save yourself. And everybody knows what that means. But he will not come out and say, well, Jesus Christ ain't coming to save you. You got to save your damn self. You won't be able to. He says they're just made up entities, but he won't actually say that Jesus isn't made up, and it's because he's got Christian followers. And I get that, and I'm not against that, and I got no problem with that. And I may have said that as a low blow, and I don't mean it to offend or harm in any way, shape, or form. So after that video, not long after I put that one up, he released a video saying how to not let people bother you.
and he was a little worked up in the video, and I felt a little responsible for that. And so then I made another video, and then I stopped making videos after that for a while because, well, if we don't have something nice to say, then you shouldn't say anything at all. I took that advice and I stopped talking. And, I put out a video today explaining a little bit why I haven't been making videos, which has something to do with that. It has more to do with the fact that okay, so anyways, so it was nothing personal against Ralph, but anyways, it was just because of my wife and I having recent troubles. If you haven't been watching anything from my YouTube stuff, which you don't need to, but we had some issues. Anyways, you want to check it out, go to my YouTube channel, Ceremony Witchcraft, or the blog, probably bring it up too. Anyways, this will be uploaded there as well after that. But all this to say is that, I'm making money and I'm not putting out any content in over a month. And that little thing with Ralph, I hope, is over because I still watch his videos and give him a hit on everything. And sometimes I don't watch his full lives, but I do watch as much as I can handle. But I didn't like the fact that he said something, and I wanted to correct him so that he's not confusing or misleading people, because whether or not there's people that practice the druid craft of the wise and got into Hollywood and used their spiritual knowledge, their magical knowledge, to put themselves in places, and whether or not you think the movies are putting out are brainwashing people or not, is a matter of opinion and debate, and I don't believe that's the case, because you can join that. I don't know how you join the Druid Crafts of the Wise, but there is a way to be a member and be in that group, and it's not even necessarily in Hollywood all the time. And there's a lot of different crafts in Hollywood, and in LA, and California is a very liberal left state. So if you were to blame Hollywood for all the liberals there, all the liberal spiritual crafts there, that's pretty misguided. So I just didn't want somebody I respect, I love watching, talking about how the media misleads people, puts out fear-based and misconceptions and deception, and then all of a sudden somebody I like and enjoy and get information from starts saying something like that, which, there might be some truth to it, but it's not the way he's presenting it completely. So that's the only thing I was trying to convey there. Once again, does he know the whole truth? He might even know more than me. I don't know. But I don't believe that for a second that what he was saying was completely accurate. And I don't hold anything against anybody that had different beliefs from me. Like I said, a long time ago, there was a guy who was doing etymology teachings about different words and the power of words and what the words truly mean. And then I subscribed to his channel because his information was good. And then he went down and said, for all you witches out there plotting for my whatever, death or whatever, I'll send the angel of death after you, blah, 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 blah. And I still subscribe to the guy. I didn't hold it against him. I know people are just misguided and don't have the eyes to see or the ears to hear. Real recognize real. Real eyes recognize real lies as well. So I tend to just, what doesn't fit, I tend to just say, fuck it. I'm not gonna let someone, just because I like them, say something that they shouldn't say. And once again, if he thinks he's right and I'm wrong, well then it's fine. There's no reason for us to not like each other or hate each other over a couple petty little differences and disagreements of what's going on in Hollywood. The truth of the matter is there's some definite evil in Hollywood and there's definite good. There's nothing, there's no system, there's nothing under this fucking sky or sun on top of this earth that is all good or all evil. Everything is a balance, a mix of both. Some have more or less of one and the other. We're all built with polarity. Even those of us like myself that are trying to be depolarized still have a polarity within us. So all that out of the way, now I can get into the carling shit, the shit I want to talk about. But I still, once again, want to say thank you to everybody who has tuned in, downloaded, and continues to support me via this channel. Feel free to watch my YouTube, but this is probably more important to watch than YouTube because it does actually, I do receive some funds from it. Now those funds go towards this channel and buying the package because it's $20 a month for the package I have. Therefore, when I get the $10, $15, $12, $14, $25, it always goes towards this channel. It stays in my PayPal until it is needed, unless for some reason I need to use that money. I don't have a card on me, so I use my PayPal somewhere. I always put it back in. But anyways, so once again, it's just a heartfelt thank you to everybody who's tuned into this shit. And who helps by supporting and whatever. And once again, why I don't feel the need to tell anybody to follow or subscribe or any of that, because you don't need to. You can simply watch my stuff without having ceremonial witchcraft under your subscription, so people think you're fucking weird while you're trying to depolarize and become a magician. I don't need to be part of what people think make you weird and all that. So by all means, I'm not trying to be self-deprecating or trying to tell you to not follow me. If you feel the need to, then go for it. But simply put, I am so fucking grateful and thankful, and I have nothing but love for everybody who's listened and downloaded my stuff. I truly, truly appreciate each and every one, whether you're subscribed or follow or not. It doesn't matter. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now, let's get on with the fucking show, shall we?
Now that I'm done kissing everybody's ass and saying thank you and all that shit, let's get to the content, shall we? Mr. George Carling is somebody you probably just heard. I can't remember. Well, I'm recording this in spite of knowing what I'm playing for recording, so I guess what I'm trying to say is here, I played a various bunch of interviews with him talking about many things, and the religious aspect he holds, the religious part of what he says, he thinks religion is at the root of most of the evil in this world. Where the fuck is the sound coming from? This cocksucker up here? Sorry, just testing shit out. Anyways, I think I found the mic. Sorry, everybody. That must have been fucking stupid. But point is, he thinks religion is at the root of all evil. But in one of those clips I said, he talks about how the human race should have gotten a hell of a lot further along, and we squandered our gifts. First of all, he says the mind is one of these great gifts that we have that we've squandered. Let me make sure my little fucking mic isn't on. These levels seem very, very abnormally low. I don't know why they're so fucking bloody low, but anyway. Okay, well. Alright, am I still recording? I better be still recording. Sorry, everybody. I don't mean to be fucked up like this and doing shit like this, but I haven't recorded in a while, and I don't want my fucking first recording and my first podcast episode to be a fucking bust. I mean, it's not going to be as good as my older ones because, I've been through a traumatic event. Finding out your wife is ready to leave you is pretty traumatic. So, needless to say that going through another shadow work / fucking my shadow side and going on the dark side, I was face to face with, let's say, Peterson likes to talk about shadow work and going into the underground. So basically, people give the Freemasons a hard time, and because they've got some pretty fucked up rituals and shit they do. I'm going to a wedding this weekend. It's my mother-in-law. She's marrying he's a soldier. He was an ex-soldier, sorry. He was in different special forces in Canadian military, and he's got PTSD, and he is 55 years old, and he's retired from the Army, and he's got a hell of a pension, a hell of a lot of money in the bank. But the trade-off for that is that he has to deal with post-traumatic stress. He's an alcoholic, and, among other things, there's a lot of issues, and he's losing about a buddy a month. We find out that one of his buddies committed suicide. And I know in the United States it's a hell of a lot worse. We're losing a hell of a lot more soldiers than we are in Canada, but still the same fucking trends. These people all served in Iraq, saw some shit, did some shit, and then their mind, their nervous system can't fucking deal with it. So they all have post-traumatic stress, and we just kind of, here's some money. It's okay for you guys to do fucked up shit because you got PTSD and whatever else, and it's just terrible how this plays out, but it's just the reality of the world we fucking live in. So, but point is, he was telling me, and I've said this before in episodes, he told me about the fact that if you want to do anything in the military, you want to go anywhere within the ranks, you have to actually join the Freemasons. And if you're a cop, if you're in security, if you're a prison guard, any type of law enforcement agency or military, if you want to move up, you join the Freemasons. And he never got past, I forget which degree, I think he's only got 3 degrees. But one of them was the ritual death. And this is the things they see on the internet, and the Christians will talk about how they're evil and they do this because they have this whole thing where it's a symbolic death where they're killing them and they take on this new identity.
But I see New Age people also talking about it as like truthers / New Age, doing these New Age concepts and law of attraction stuff and trying to lose their ego. And I think to myself, well, you fucking hypocrites, because these people are doing the same thing. Now, I don't know if the Masons are evil. There's no way for me to know if the Masons are, in fact, an evil group or they do evil things. Hell, anything's fucking possible. And like I continuously say, there's no group that's all evil or all good. Like, there's mixed half and half, and, 60-40s and 70-30s and 90-10s and all of it, all the in-betweens there can be. So, but what am I doing in my transformation? Well, I'm losing this Corey LeBlanc identity. There's a few books, great books you can read if you don't want to do the curriculum I'm doing per se. And some of the personal exercises that you can do are simply life exercises, as in you got to do a 7-day. It's like a 7-day challenge. From the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, basically, or you lay in bed trying to go to sleep. You have to not use the word I or me. Refer to yourself in any way, shape, or form. And there's different specific, and you got to not criticize other people is another one. You got to not criticize yourself. There's a bunch of these little exercises you do for 7 days, and then you try to do it for another 7 days, another 7 days. And what they do, these exercises are designed for the person, the practitioner, the magi, the fucking witch, whoever, to lose their identity, to lose their ego. That's what it's designed for. It's a hell of a Mia! No! Sorry, my dog's trying to get out of the back gate. It's pissing me off. It's designed to try to get you to lose your ego and not identify with your persona that you were given from birth. So, and that's what this symbolic death is in the Freemasons, and that's what we're all trying to do. And just people that are New Age that just kind of do what they see on the internet and do this hodgepodge of some spirituality, some yoga, and some fucking Christianity, and some fucking magical shit that they have no idea. They don't have a curriculum. They don't have any kind of, something to follow to do it properly. They think some groups are evil, yet they're doing the same thing just from a different perspective. And that kind of shit bugs me. Bugs the fuck out of me, to be honest. And that's the kind of thing I was trying to tell the whole Ralph Smart thing was about, was me trying to point out that, you're probably not wrong about Hollywood trying to cast spells on the people. There's definitely some movies that are out there that are predictive programming. There's definitely some stuff. And I don't think it's actually predictive programming, like people say. People tend to think that they're telling you what they're about to do. I think it's more creating. Of everything I know of how the subconscious mind works, and how when you do things and you put things in everybody's fucking mind, you are creating an event. You are not predicting an event. You're not telling people a couple months in advance, hey, this is what's going to happen. All these things that The Simpsons predicted 9/11. All these other things that predicted 9/11. It's like, did they predict it, or was that all in everybody's mind that it was easy to... Anyways, the point I'm trying to say is, I said this before, are you a psychic if you know when someone's about to call you, or did you fucking call them first by thinking about them? It's one of those things that you're creating a reality. If you put enough fucking thought into something, enough emotion, enough energy into something, you create on the astral plane, well, it filters down into our existence, our physical plane. That's how magic works. That's the fucking bare ass, naked, essential essence of what we do. Grab a sigil, I want $5,000. You stare at that motherfucker, you jerk off, you come, you fucking do everything you need to do to fucking light that bitch up, charge it, and fucking all that shit. And then you put that in the fucking astral. Then you burn that bitch up so you don't have a representation in the physical. So now you got a mix match. You got something on the astral plane that says this isn't your reality, but it's not here in the physical. And boom, it happens to you. You get the $5,000. That's how magic works. That's the bare necessity basics. This is the same concept of why you can't break habits. As I went through this on all my recent videos on YouTube. This is how magic works. This is how, using the subconscious mind, this is how it all boils down to. The same concept as predictive programming. They put stuff in movies. Everybody's watching this movie in a trance-like state. It gets rid of their subconscious mind, where the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between real or fake. And then, lo and behold, the things happen in our society, and people are blaming the media, Hollywood, so on and so forth. Well, Is it really them controlling it, or is it them putting something out there and then everybody's minds creating it? We can blame Hollywood all we want, but we sat down to watch the movie and we don't know how our own subconscious minds work. So we're the fucking idiots to blame because we weren't guarding the gates of our mind. Hollywood simply made the movie and said, hey, I'm going to try to do stuff with your subconscious mind because you guys don't know how it fucking works. And we said, okay, let us pay a fucking $20 fucking ticket just to go watch a movie, and then you guys use our power against us. No, we're the fucking dumb fucks who are letting them use our power. So we can go around blaming them and being little fucking victim bitches all we want, but when it comes right down to it, we are giving our power away, and we are the fucking ones to blame. And let's stop being the ones to blame. Let's put this shit to good use. Who out here doesn't like coronavirus? Who out here thinks maybe the masks right now are overkill? Who knows? But the safest thing to do is be everybody who's a magical practitioner right now make some kind of sigil or some representation that we are living in a world free from coronavirus, free from any deaths as a result of coronavirus, free from any mass in existence. And we all put our fucking energy into that. We put it on the astral plane, and then we burn that sigil. What do you think would happen? Well, it would filter down into fucking our existence. And we could eliminate this shit just like that. But here's what's actually happening. We're all putting on the mask, all willingly. We're all putting our energy into the fucking media and watching the shit and thinking it's fucking real. Even if you don't believe it, you still watch this shit. You still put energy into it. Therefore, it's still becoming stronger and stronger on the astral plane and filtering down into our physical existence. Everybody who says, wave 2's coming, wave 2's coming, wave 2's coming, what do you think that's doing right now? We are putting that idea that the second wave is going to be worse, it's going to be in the astral, and it's going to kill more people, and it's going to fuck shit up. We're giving more and more energy to that every day. Every scientist and person saying we're going to have nanochips, and we're going to be cyborgs and all this shit, they're putting that into the astral plane. And they want to filter it down here. Don't let them fucking do that shit. Okay? 7 Hermetic Principles and understanding the subconscious mind is a great way to start magic. But really, if you know this, if you know that whatever you put into the astral filters down into your existence, then you can do anything. And from change the fucking world to change your life to fucking stop being a little putz and a pawns and a fucking victim little bitch. It's as simple as that. Let's quit giving our fucking power away. George Carlin says a lot of great things. And the shit I'm going to play for you guys, listen to it if you want, don't listen to it if you want. I wanted to make this a big episode, but I don't really have time because I got a few fucking things I got to do. It's like 11 o'clock at fucking night right now. So whatever I got here, I'm going to put on. And it's just going to be a small ass episode, but I do hope you enjoyed it. And I'm going to start doing this more frequently, at least the podcast. I'm going to have to alternate maybe 2 videos a week and 1 podcast a week, something to that effect. So I'm going to come back, but I'm going to have to work it into a schedule that's okay with my wife and, go from there. Because like I said, I went through a pretty dark night of the soul. And, when Peterson talks about when you do your shadow side and all that shit, well, you go up against malevolence. And, like the Eye of Horus, he had one eye after, right? Well, it's because he won the fight against his fucking evil uncle. But, just like the Lion King, right? Scar and all this shit, whatever. When you go up against malevolence, when you go against evil, you can win. You're going to win. So if you have strong will, that's the point. When you do your initiation, you're asking for that. You're asking for, okay, bring on the malevolent bullshit that I can rise above and become stronger. But it's still going to take a piece of you. It's still going to give you something. You're going to learn something. It's going to take something from you. Nothing can be given without something being taken. There has to be an energy exchange there. Even when you're going up against evil shit. The good side doesn't just get to whoop evil's ass and just fucking 10-0 fucking shutout. Yeah, baby, we kicked your ass. No. It's going to be 9-9, and you're just getting a tiebreaker, but you lose a fucking eye when you get that winning fucking goal. Because he does something dirty and then whatever. That's the point. That's what happened to Horus. And that's why he could have fucking put his eye back in his head and had 2 eyes and said no. And this is why this is a mythological story. It doesn't have to be real. That you can use the deities to accomplish great things. But the story is also there to teach us a fucking lesson. To teach us that when we go up against malevolent things. When I found out my wife wasn't happy with me anymore and was debating on leaving me and potentially starting a relationship with another man, I was so fucked up. And I still from time to time get fucked up when I think about it. But it's a lesson learned because I fucked up first. She reached out to me so many times telling me she wasn't unhappy, and I couldn't even hear her over my own transformation and cults and everything I was doing, from doing my podcast to my fucking videos to my magic to everything. All I was focusing on me. I wasn't focusing on the kids as much, but they were getting more time than she was, and I was not balancing shit. It was fucking terrible. I was a fucking prick. I left her alone to do all the chores, all the work, all the maintenance, all the fucking everything. You know what I mean? I would do the bare minimum, and sometimes I wouldn't even do that. And I'm a big enough man to know I fucked up. And that's why I really got to do this right now. And I got to fix this. And that's why I had the gap. But the point is, it's not without, it's not like, okay, well, she was ready to leave. She told me a million times that she was unhappy, and I could have fixed it any one of those times. But it took malevolence.